She flagged!
Oh, he won on time.
She was on a winning position for her.
I wanted it so bad, and he did it.
Now take the room. Now take the room.
What a move! And at long last, we are back with the IM GM Speed Chess Championship brought to you by Chess.com. We are in the semifinals, and here we have both International Master IM Kashlinskaya and International Master Teddy Coleman. Alina, Teddy, welcome back.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
And my first question has to be, which of Danya's impressions that he was doing before the show is your favorite? Alina, we'll start with you.
Wish, definitely.
Teddy?
I'll go with Gary. It's a tried and true classic.
And Danya, do you have a Teddy in the works for us?
Teddy in the work. Teddy is slowly being prepared, but you know, it's like coffee. I have to roast it for a while. Teddy's got that San Francisco kind of clean, crisp, you know, just eating some avocado toast, you know, don't mess with me kind of tone. So that's not as easy to kind of hook. But
all right, well,
I'll do my best.
I've already distracted the show enough. Donna, you can ask the players the real chess questions. You're the GM here.
All right. Well, I guess a question for both of you, Teddy and Alina. There's, of course, quite a long break between the first set of matches and today's semifinal. What are some of the things that you did during that break to keep yourself informed? Do you feel like that break made you more anxious to play, or do you feel refreshed and maybe more ready to fight than before?
Well, I think if I can start as a lady, maybe I should go first. So my daily routine with chess was almost the same, like every day. Not much has changed, but of course nowadays every opportunity to play chess is very exciting, and I'm happy to be able to play again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say during the break I loved watching the Nations Cup. I thought that was super fun to watch every day. So I don't know if that's preparation or not, but it certainly was like excellent chess. And yeah, I guess, you know, this tournament has given me like, you know, a good reason to really study chess again. So it's been fun.
Wow, you two give the kindest and like most sincere answers.
It's impossible to roast you guys. I mean,
yeah, I know. I like
the most gentlemanly, you know.
I don't know what else to ask. I mean, I guess Alina, back to you really quickly. You know, in the first two matches, they were very close matches. Like Teddy, the same. But Alina, start with you. Do you anticipate another close match? Have you sort of prepared your nerves for a tight match in this one?
Well, my nerves are always ready for my matches, so I didn't have to do some extra work in this case.
Teddy, what about you?
Yeah, definitely. The first two matches were really down to the wire. So I don't know. Hopefully that's good training for this one.
Well, you know, we'll give you both a little rest so you can get ready for the games. We thank you for your participation and for entertaining not just the fans, but us, and putting up with us, really, because I know we've been a handful already in the brief time that we spent together today. But best of skill to both of you, and
good luck.
Have some good chess ahead.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
because there has been a bit of a breather between the quarterfinals and semifinals of this IM GM Speed Chess Championship. We must remind you of how we got here, who has been eliminated. And as you see, on the right side of the bracket, we have Teddy Coleman, Alina Kashlinskaya. All right, Danya, we're reminding everybody of what's happened to close matchups. Teddy just eking by Danny Wrench and then Levy Roslin, a 2-point spread in each matchup. And the matches with Alina Kashlinskaya, she beat Krzysztof Sielecki by 2 and then Eric Rosen by 5, but that was entirely determined by the bullet portion. They went into that tie. So in this matchup between Teddy and Alina, who you got?
Well, I mean, Teddy has been just incredible. He's been so clutch. He's been performing in critical moments of the match, and so has Alina. Alina's just gotten better and better. In the last match, we were amazed at how the match kept progressing, and Alina kept getting sharper and sharper. I'm going to have to go with Alina just because she's more practiced. Obviously, she's higher rated, but at the same time, I love Teddy. I think he's performed exceptionally. I'm going to say this is going to come down to the bullet section. That's going to be my guess.
Okay, and we just remind everybody the format. It is the longest time is spent in the 5+1 segment. That's 5 minutes with a 1 second increment. Then we get to the 3 minute plus a 1 second increment, and finally to that bullet 1+1. And well, it's single elimination. We've already seen who's been eliminated. And with Alina, she is the higher rated in the classical chess, but we've seen Teddy upset players who are more active than he is, who are higher rated. And so the ratings don't tell the whole story. But I think you have to give the nod to Alina Kashlinskaya, but that may favor Teddy. He's been the underdog every single match, and yet he's prevailed in the first two. So it will be an interesting fight in this matchup.
Indeed, and the fact that he maybe hasn't played as much tournament chess as Alina, that might not be a bad thing, because sometimes you take a break from chess, now you come back and you're hungry for the game, and you're fresh, and you've got nothing to lose. So Alina's classical rating significantly higher. It's about 150-point difference. But we see Chess.com Blitz rating. Don't sleep on Teddy.
Definitely not. And I just want to get the daily question in the mix before the games take off, because it's a fun one. I know, Danya, you love basketball, Michael Jordan, and so The Last Dance is on everyone's mind. But the question is, and get involved, by the way, with #SpeedChess, which chess player would you like to see a documentary made about? And we have to go to the games, because the games are underway here, and we have Teddy Coleman with the black pieces, Alina Kashlinskaya with white. Danya, we have the triangle. So Teddy going for this approach again, but perhaps Alina, now that she's seen Teddy play this against Levy Roslin, she'll be well prepared here.
Yeah, I mean, this is such, and we discussed this then, this is such a theoretical line. There's bishop f8 in this position, a cute looking move. Of course, king takes f8, not possible due to checkmate. I mean, I actually tried to study this line once, and I took one look at some of the game annotations in Megabase, and I thought, this is not for me. There is so much theory in this line. And of course, white sacks a pawn. The compensation is pretty evident. 2 bishops, initiative. But if black consolidates, he could end up being better. And Alina already taking a deep think here. I'm not sure whether the theory has ended or whether 97 has surprised her. I think you know more about this position than I do, Robert.
Well, I mean, Teddy has played this before against Levy Roslin, and you just take a peek at this position. You see that black is temporarily up a pawn. The queen on e4 stares at g2, which, it's some lines you want to capture, and other lines that just helps white develop. But here, the rook is saved by rook to g8. I was wondering if Teddy could have played queen takes g2, but this is a highly theoretical line. Just showing the analysis board really quickly, after bishop takes g7, queen takes g2 must be tempting, because you're hitting the bishop on g7 as well as the rook on h1. And so it's kind of a rook trade on h8 and h1, but the players know what they're doing. It seems like Teddy moving so quickly that he went rook to g8, so he must have had this still in his repertoire. And I mean, Danya, an extra minute plus thus far for Teddy here. Ooh. Does that spell some kind of problem for Alina?
It does, and at first I thought Alina would move her bishop away, but black had this queen takes g2 followed by queen takes g1 idea, so queen d4 on the board, and I feel like this is...
Wait, but what about queen g2 now?
Yeah, oh my goodness, and the g7 bishop is hanging. Wait a minute. Alina probably intends to castle long there, but how about knight d7 in that position?
That's what I was wondering, if I can just close down the d file and your rook on h1 and your bishop on g7 still under attack.
As one Mr. Bartholomew would say, man, man, man. Is white just losing after queen takes g2? I mean, with these positions, it's never entirely clear-cut because of the king safety. But if that d file is plugged, I don't see how white saves a piece. He either loses G7 or he loses H1.
Yeah, and I think Alina has misplayed this, and Teddy going into a deep think, it's a critical moment to do so. There he plays queen takes G2. Because, Danya, one more thing I was going to say was if instead of castle queen said bishop f6, queen takes h1, queen d6, there are some sort of mating nets like this where I'm hitting the e7 square and your knight can't move because of d8. So that was one thing to keep an eye on. But even there, I think black is doing well in some of these lines where you sacrifice your queen to save your king. Sometimes you can,
for example, on g5.
And now this knight d7 move, stopping checkmate in 1 and putting the square f6 in some trouble. But I think that Alina can still try something like this, right? So after, let's say you play the move knight d7 here, bishop f6, queen h1, queen d6. This knight can now move out the way. That's the important thing.
That's the problem, right? Knight f5.
Exactly. So I remove my attack piece and I still protect the square and life continues. But knight d7.
And the question is, does white have any way to prolong the game? To create any sort of resources against black's king, and I just don't see it, Robert.
I have one for you. Bishop e5, and if queen takes h1, bishop f3, but then you go queen takes g1 and just...
Right, and you mentioned that, right? Black gets a full house for the queen. My kingdom for a horse, right? I mean, 2 rooks in a piece. Now, the game is not over there. I think that probably is white's... That's a good catch, but bishop f6 played. First of all, black has knight f5 intermezzo to think about, but I'm not sure that's necessary.
And that's a really good point that you're making here, Danya, and one that I think we, even us, we think like, wait, do I throw in that move or should I reserve it? Because after queen d6, I always have this knight f5 move. And so unless there's a clear benefit by attacking this queen, it's just a one-move threat. So I don't know if I would play knight f5 here. Queen takes h1 feels just supernatural because I'm stealing a rook off the board. I don't see a checkmate for white to take advantage of just yet. And Teddy is deep in thought here because this is a game he does not want to spoil.
Yeah, especially with the black pieces to have such a chance out of the opening. He does decide on knight f5. Now we know that Teddy has a bit of a predilection for safer positions. He doesn't like undue risk, but oh my goodness, what a move. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my, that is nasty.
Oh.
And you called it, Robert. You mentioned don't make these unnecessary moves.
That is sick. That is sick.
That is brilliant.
Do you have to play knight e7 back?
Queen d5. There's rook takes d5. Can't block the d file.
Wait, queen d5. What?
Well, I thought maybe it's CD. Oh, queen d8. That's also made. Oh my goodness.
But I was like, what's queen d5?
No, I was just trying. There's so many threats. I forgot queen d8 is also a threat.
But what about knight e7 back? And I know it's not a movie you want to play, but the point is
you
knight
have
e7,
to.
bishop e7, then I take your queen because now your bishop on e7 is under attack.
Right. Yeah. So the question is an amazing idea, but is white still losing?
And look at that. Teddy takes his time. He finds knight e7 return. That is a brilliant shot by Alina Kashlinskaya.
Rook takes d7 now, Robert.
Yeah, rook takes d7 is probably a move you have to play, but then bishop takes d7 and you're not worried about your back rank. I know you lose some of your queen side, but this rook on h1 is still hanging there. And moves like bishop f3, I still play queen h1, bishop h1, rook g1 check, and I continue picking up all your pieces. And the 2 rooks in a minor piece for queen is too much. So queen c7, inching forward, but what next? Queen d6, then you play knight f5.
I guess queen h1, she wants maybe knight f3 and rook g1, but then as we discussed, queen takes g1, and that bishop on f6 will fall at the end, adding insult to injury.
Well, is there some kind of weird draw? Queen h1, queen d6, knight f5, queen c7, and just like forcing the knight to come back to e7?
Yeah, that sounds like an alpha 0 against Stockfish game with one of those draws. So the question is after queen d6, and if black plays, I suppose, knight g6, you can still go queen c7. That doesn't add anything for black.
What a game. I'm mesmerized by this.
Early fireworks. Now queen b6. I can't get over how beautiful that move is.
We were joking before we started the actual chess here that we were not in a serious mood, but the players are putting us in one because we're here now analyzing these crazy tactical variations. How do you cover the d8 square? And queen takes f2. Teddy playing for more here.
He is. I'm not sure about that move. There's something about that doesn't sit well with me. Bishop d4 by Alina. Look at the time situation. Bishop b6, Robert. That's a huge threat.
Oh my gosh, you're just going
for b6 square. Who would have thought that it plays such a pivotal role in this game? But it does.
So maybe queen h4, just so you can move your knight out the way once bishop b6 happens. So queen f5, not seeing the danger. Isn't bishop b6 now? But a queen g5 check.
Queen g5 check, and by the skin, by the hair on his chinny chin chin. Knight f5 then, knight f3. That still looks scary.
Yeah, I mean, white's clearly picking up the momentum. I mean, this is very scary stuff.
Knight f3 immediately is also something to be considered. Covering the g5 square preemptively in time pressure, that's a very hard move to deal with as well.
After knight f3, I might play with like knight g6 to get queen f4 check in. I would love to trade queens because I see that your queen on c7 is trying to checkmate me. And this bishop b6 move, I mean, that just looks good. You're threatening this mate on d8 here, and queen g5, as we were discussing, seems to be the only way to stop it. I guess actually you can play f6.
Immediate bishop b6, f6.
Yeah, it's an escape with your king this way, but that's, I mean, and I would maintain. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
No. I was just gonna say I would maintain that after something bishop b6, f6, practically speaking, Alina's got to try to stay up on the clock here. So maybe knight f3 then. But the thing is, even if the king gets to f7, even if black takes on b6, the initiative continues, and Alina does go for bishop b6.
Yep.
Now Teddy has this choice: queen g5 check or f6.
And Teddy is deep in thought. You see his posture here, head in hand, trying to figure out, I mean, how do I even survive the next 3 moves? I have 25 seconds on the clock. Queen d8 checkmate is threatened. I think he plays queen g5 and rook d2. I'm not sure about rook d2. I don't like pinning my own rook, but at the same time, this actually is clever because now knight f3, rook h to d1, and the queen can't stay pinning the rook and defending the d8 square. So
wow.
Queen e7,
what a forward-thinking move. And
rook
knight
d1
e5 is also possible, but I love rook d1.
Because if knight takes b6, there's rook d8 checkmate. f6 feels absolutely necessary.
Because knight e5 is going to be a crusher.
f6, you need to make space for king. Rook g2 doesn't
knight
help.
e5.
Knight e5, then rook takes e2, possibly?
Well, simply rook takes c2, right?
Okay, and here it is, rook takes c2. You have to, I feel like.
Yeah, you have to try it, but 3 seconds for Teddy, and just rook takes c2. The problem is you still can't take on e5. But maybe take on b6?
You take on b6, queen b6. White is up in exchange for 2 pawns.
Robert, rook e2, knight b6, rook d8.
Oh, you're so filthy. Rook d8.
Oh, rook d8. Rook d8. Look at that mate.
That is so sickening.
That is.
Oh, it's missed. It's missed. We have to pull up an analysis
board. Queen b6, but she misses rook d8. It just happens.
We have to pull up the analysis
winning
board
for white.
to show that. Rook d8 check. Queen takes d8 only move. Queen takes f7 is check and mate on this black king, and it doesn't matter because she wins by 10. She wins,
and look at that queen swinging from b6 to g1 to g8. What a game.
Oh my gosh. That was, Alina Kashlinskaya finding queen b6. Teddy didn't see that at all. That I promise you. And once she found that move, it was pretty much game over. So, a bad opening for Alina because Teddy knew what he was doing and got an objective advantage. But she handled it so well after that point, got ahead on the clock, and Teddy just, he didn't know what to do. He's flustered, the position is difficult, and it was Alina who ends up ahead.
Incredible. And I'm actually, and again, this is my daily compliment for you, Robert, so please cherish it. You mentioned before knight f5 that in these types of positions, you don't want to play with fire. If you have a move that's good and you just take the rook, because you never know what kind of resources you might allow if you try to get a little bit too fancy. But queen b6, just incredible. What a beautiful concept and what an incredible follow-up.
Yeah, these lines are just dangerous in that last game for black no matter what, even if you do escape with some material. And here in this game, white has already pushed his pawn to h6. Alina tucks her bishop back on h8. And the long-term element of this position is this bishop on h8 ever getting out, right? Because it's not just about going for checkmate. You have the g7 square covered, so you're not getting checkmated. But in certain endgames with your bishop sort of stuck on a useless diagonal, that can be a big issue, especially as the weak square tends to be d6. And if white can pile up pressure on that square, the bishop on h8 not really helping defend against some of white's.
Don't you trash talk my king's Indian bishop, Robert.
I'm just making sure that you're honest with yourself.
Well, I've played the King's Indian for maybe 17 years, so I'm anything but honest with myself. And I can probably write a book in which I would feature all the games where I lost due to that h8 bishop basically being hemmed in. So the key priority for black here is to orchestrate queenside counterplay as quickly as possible. And that is exactly what Alina is trying to do. Knight g5, securing the e4 square, e4 pawn. Now, the computer always evaluates these positions as better for white, but black always has play connected with b5. That's the nature of the King's Indian. That's what makes it such an attractive opening, especially in Blitz.
I'm totally with you, Danya. I think that the King's Indian in classical chess, you don't really see it too frequently at the highest levels because there are inherent risks to playing the King's Indian, some structural issues, mostly and some queenside initiative for white. But this isn't that kind of King's Indian where white is the only one playing on the queen side and gets c4, c5. No, black is actually, she's well positioned with the rook on c8 and queen d1. One of those prudent moves being like, well, I don't like this pin. With the queen on c2, perhaps there was some kind of knight a4 at some moment, or b5 as you were mentioning. Now b5 still under white's control for the time being, and knight to e8. So her idea is standard King's Indian. Let me push that f-pawn. But Danya, let me ask you, is it entirely safe to push that f-pawn? Because white will play b4 and then a knight e6 type of maneuver. And it does feel like the black king is becoming more vulnerable as soon as you touch this f-pawn.
Yeah, it's definitely not safe. And black might have an idea of going f6 first, but that always creates the problem of a potential positional sacrifice on e6. I'm not saying that's what white's going to do, but I'm with you, Robert. f5 with your king on g8 like that and a pawn on h6 like that, I've done that before. Very, very dangerous. So I actually think maybe f6 is an idea for black, and Alina's just annoyed at that knight on g5. Teddy's definitely better here. I think there's no doubt about that. But here we see, again, the practical difficulties of playing this with white. For example, if you play b4, just to give an example of the kinds of resources black has, knight a6, a3, rook takes c3, and that actually might happen on the board. Teddy's got to be careful.
Uh-oh.
Rook takes c3, rook takes, and he misses it.
Oh my gosh, you called it.
That actually happened. I just wanted to give an example.
You called it, and after rook takes c3, the best that white has is some kind of knight takes h7. Just, you're going to lose your knight anyway because your bishop is overloaded protecting both knights. And so knight takes h7 at least gains you another pawn for your trouble, or knight takes f7. So I can't
believe that happened. I was just saying, just as an example.
Yeah, you are the prophet that Teddy did not need today.
Definitely not.
I think you just, which pawn do you take, the f7 or the h7 pawn?
I would take the h7 pawn because taking the f7 pawn actually favors black by opening that file. Now, it's important to point out that knight on a6 is very passive. So the game is very far from over. Now white is the one with serious practical chances. I don't know, maybe taking f7 to stop f5 ideas.
That's what I was thinking, because, if I take on f7, rook f7, bishop c3, you'll put your queen on f6, I'll play f3, just close down the f file, and I'll concentrate all of my attention on the queen side as white, because black can't really make easy progress on the king side. You can play g5, g4, especially after an f3 maneuver, and that makes sense. That's in the style of a King's Indian, but white will start pushing on the queen side, and while there's no exact target just yet, it's something that it won't be easy for black to meet. He decides to take on h7, and then f5 comes, and I think black's king is now very safe, and you're making headway on the king side. So this position is turning south very quickly for white. Alina tactically alert, and we'll just go back one more time to this move a3. Queen b3 was clearly far better, protecting the pawn on b4 and the knight on c3, so none of this rook c3 business would have been available to Alina. So unfortunately for Teddy, he was not aware that rook takes c3 was a threat, and for Alina, showing good tactical vision, queen b6 in the first game, rook takes c3 in this one, and this one still will continue because although we like black's position and black's time advantage, the king on h7, if you play f3, g4 for white, swing a bishop to d3, there are some challenges for the black king, but okay, going after d5 feels very smart.
Notice the confidence in Alina's play. She's up 2.5 minutes on the clock. That is incredible. Now b5, queen a8 is an idea. That d5 pawn is more important than it might look. If it falls, black's going to have that pawn phalanx in the center. That knight can jump to f4. I feel like that might be the key to the position. So I like b5. Obviously, that's not forced. Alina could make a neutral move like queen e7, connecting her pieces. She does go b5. And now queen a8, and she does it. And g4, bishop c8, bishop b7 is an idea.
Yep.
Even bishop c8 here.
I like bishop c8. You're just going after this pawn on d5, and there's no way for white to really protect it. So that seems like a very important pawn to win. And Danya, you're just calling everything right now. And Alina Kashlinskaya, she's making the most of her Naroditsky-like moves.
But I don't mean to be obnoxious, because when I watch football games, sometimes Tony Romo's doing the commentary, and he always spoils the play before it happens. And this is going to be this type of run, the over and back, this kind of pass, and that's exactly what happens, but you've taken the fun out of it. So I'll try to moderate my predictions. Knight g8 by Alina in the spirit of bishop c8. Maybe she's trying to potentially clear the pieces off the f file in case of g4.
That's perhaps an option. I was going to say, if you're really going full Tony Romo, you're going to have to call me Jim. You know, like, come on, Jim, you look at that formation there. And while we do look at the formation here, Black has a situation where it's 2 knights for rook and pawn, but the position is closed for now. So what chances does Teddy have? Maybe G4, maybe F4, trying to open up some space for the rooks. The rook can go to C1 at some moment in the near future. And the downside of playing a move like B5, Danya, I think you would agree, is that you've given up the C6 square, for instance. So if I can play rook C1, move my bishop out the way, go rook C6, then the D6 pawn feels weak. White's doubling on the C file. Only White has 2 rooks. So if you can double on an open file, that gives you all the chances there because Black can't fight for it in the same manner. And
yeah, I don't like agreeing with you, but I have to begrudgingly admit that was well explained. Yeah, and I mean, this F4 idea is actually very, very annoying because if the dark squared bishop disappears from the board, that's a serious problem for Black's king. There's queen D4, queen 8, queen G7 ideas. So I would try to eliminate that H6 pawn. Alina is probably trying to swing her queen to H4, which is a very sensible idea. I think Teddy has no time to waste. He's got to play F4. He's got to do something right now.
He's thinking too much right now because also going queen A8 back to D8, watch out for the A7 square. Time to queen E3, shifting your focus to the queen side, hits A7 and says, well, you have to worry about that one too. Bishop F6, she's lining up her queen and bishop G5 coming, and then she finally will.
And there we go, G4 by Teddy. He's got to try something like this. I'm just not sure what he gains from it.
Yeah, I don't think he's gained much either. And F4, you're giving the
bishop H4 wins now. Still not over bishop C2. Okay, but he's got no time either. So wow, Alina jumping out to a 2-0 lead. Incredible tactical confidence here. If you're Teddy, how do you handle this situation?
I mean, you're repeating a line that you knew better than Alina did just by her time usage, but maybe, Alina racked her brain during that first game. Bishop F8, we talked about this move because you can't take on F8 because queen D8 is checkmate, but Teddy faced that against Levy in the quarterfinal matchup. Your response will still be knight E7. But to answer your question, Danya, I mean, Alina is still thinking here, right? So clearly Teddy feels more comfortable in this opening. So I like that he's returned to it. He definitely knows he spoiled some good chances in game 1. And for Alina, you need to fix the opening stage because she's been outplaying Teddy after the opening, that's for sure.
Right. And well, I'm a little bit surprised that she repeated this line, given that she didn't have something in mind as an improvement. It might very well be that she prepared several moves in this position and she's just choosing one. Maybe she's playing a little bit of a psychological game. Sometimes you don't want to play too fast in order not to reveal the extent of your preparation, maybe lull your opponent into thinking that you're not well prepared. But I like her choice here. She's not giving up G2. I mean, in this case, that White is going to have at least some compensation.
Right. And Alina puts her bishop on A3 to sort of permanently prevent Black from castling. You can't castle through check. Even if C5, that is a committal move, but one that is sort of standard. Because look at this bishop on A3 now, Danya. It's not really doing all that much. And eventually this knight on G8 will come to C6, for instance. You castle kingside. And it's interesting that we turn from a really crazy, razor-sharp tactile game into a positional one where Black is up a pawn, but this queen on E4, it looks nicely centralized, but it becomes a victim to a quick attack. Bishop D3, rook E1, that kind of stuff. And that's why we tell people, you don't want to move your queen too many times in the opening because it's easy to attack and gain tempi for White now that the queen's on E4. So Teddy is now down on the clock. Alina played a more positional approach. And Danya, what do you make of this position?
I like Teddy's position here. I think I'm on the same page that the queen is experiencing some discomfort. But in the event of something like rook E1, the queen could also tuck itself on C6 and potentially combine with the bishop battery. And here we're going to see Alina forcing Teddy to decide. He goes queen F4. Okay, so maybe he's trying to get the queen to C7 later on, but that queen could sit on F4 for the time being. Now, Teddy has this plan of playing B6 and bishop B7. And although White does have the 2 bishops and, White has some initiative left, I feel like if Black castles and puts a rook on D8, I don't know about you, Robert, but I don't think White's got full compensation for the pawn. Alina could land in serious trouble here.
I tend to like these type of positions for Black because I am greedy. I like the extra pawn, but in particular, it's not easy to see a concrete way that White has compensation. And what do you mean by that? When we look at games, we see an imbalance of some sort. We say, oh, this vague term compensation. But what does that really entail? Well, you want to have
in Russia.
you want to have a clear plan. You want to have a target to exploit. You want to have an advantage somewhere. White's advantage is having a dark square bishop, while black does not. But, you know, she's trying to play knight e5 and maybe use this bishop, but the knight on f6 is such a strong piece blocking the scope of this bishop on b2. And even if you eventually capture on f6 and I have to take with my g-pawn, well, that's okay with black. This is sort of a French-like structure where you have the pawn on e6, the bishop on b7, but the difference is now that white is actually down a pawn in a kind of French dynamic. So I like black's chances just like you do. I don't see a clear weakness to exploit. I don't see a target. And when we talk about pawn structure, a5 to a4, Danya, well, there it is. Thematic to open up the A file, and Alina responded very well. Bishop b1 covering the a2 square, but that's what you tend to want as black when you have this sort of pawn structure. a5, a4, break open the A file.
Yeah, and I mean, insofar as white is going to try to whip up some sort of initiative, those two bishops, I've heard them referred to as Horowitz bishops in sort of Russian chess literature. I don't know if anybody knows that term, but those bishops can potentially contribute to an attack. So if Alina puts knight g5 is a very serious sort of tactical idea here, because it could be followed by knight takes f7. I would actually seriously consider h6 if I were Teddy here to restrict that knight, because his kingside pawn structure is not as solid as it may appear. Or maybe queen back to f4. But
it's actually, as you were talking, Danya, I was thinking queen f4 as well, just putting that queen back on the score to even threaten bishop takes f3 to ruin white's kingside pawn structure. Queen f4 is played. So that is the very Teddy-like move, safe, not committing to anything on the king side, but also very practical and strong. I would think about knight e5 in response for Alina, but the problem with playing knight e5 is you're opening up the scope of my bishop on b7. So unfortunately for Alina, she doesn't have the same solid footing on the f6, f3 square as black does. Right? f6 is so well defended for black. You have a knight there, a pawn on g7. White only has that one pawn on g2, and so she does actually play knight to e5, but knight e5, bishop e5, queen to g5 type of thing, going for the g2 pawn.
And then black is the one who starts to develop an initiative against white's king. So this is, in that A file you pointed out earlier, Robert, that's a very forward-thinking idea by Teddy, because that could come into play if white fully extends herself to defending the king side, potential rook infiltration to a3, a2. I mean, I'm talking far in the future, but you know, that could play a role as well. So definitely very successful opening by Teddy, but he's taking a lot of time here. Maybe he's a little bit worried about some bishop c7 ideas if you allow the bishop to e5, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. I don't know. Maybe he's thinking about queen g5 immediately. He's got to be very careful with that block, and he does it.
And queen g5 is extremely smart just for the reason you laid out. If knight e5, bishop e5, in comes the bishop c7 with the tempo, hitting the rook, hitting the b pawn, because queen g5 is by f4, simultaneously protecting g2 and attacking the queen. So that's
what about f4 here? Sorry to cut you off, Robert.
No problems. I was thinking about that, but that's a really risky decision to play f4, because I can take on f4, and you're going to try to go knight takes f7 on me. But is there actually a mate to follow? Knight f7, king f7, queen e6, king f8. And it's like you're inching forward on my king.
H7, yeah, but I see what you're saying. One single move and black wards off the queen. DJ wards off the queen. And number one of the day. And white is lost. So Alina decides to go for the longer term sort of game. And now again, bishop c7, potential idea, actually a little bit more unpleasant than I think I gave it credit for initially.
And one more thing is that black would consider rook takes d1, rook takes d1, bishop takes f3 here, distracting the queen from the defense of the bishop, but the rook on a8 is hanging. So that's one of those important things where it looks like you're winning a pawn because you distract the queen away from the bishop on e5, but then you blunder your rook in the corner. So tactics need to be fully thought out, not just saying, hey, I got what I wanted by winning a pawn. No, the a8 rook, even though a8 rook now looks well defended, it's easy to overlook this, especially in Blitz, that after all the dust settles, I no longer have a defense for that rook. So bishop c6 played. This bishop c7 idea, Danya.
Yeah, I mean, even immediately, bishop c7, rook takes rook. And then white just wants to collect some pawns on the queen side and ask black, how are you going to either take advantage of that weakened white king? I mean, especially given that Teddy's got 40 seconds, bishop c7 is a very practical decision here, but obviously not forced. Alina could, there's maybe king h1, but I feel like she's got to do it. Maybe she wants to take on d8 first, but then there's rook d2.
Right, that's exactly what I do not want to allow. Rook d8, bishop c7, thinking you're being more forceful, but rook d2 comes, and then you're like, wait a second, there's a quick counterattack, and it's not checkmate, but you don't want to give black that kind of play there. So she's thinking, she's up a minute on the clock down there. Her time management has been stellar, and Teddy probably put his bishop on c6 to also allow knight d7 and keep that square defended. And if you ever do get bishop takes b6, I have rook b8, perhaps with a tempo down the b file. You take b6 and c5. Actually, can't take c5. My queen's on g5, but you take b6. I'm going to try to win b3 in return.
Correct. That's actually a good point. Yeah, that b file is now open, and here we see bishop c7. I do think Teddy would be playing a little bit faster. I feel like he's a little shaken, given the turn of events in the first two games. And Alina goes bishop b5. She backpedals a little bit. I would totally go for repetition here if I were white. I would just go bishop c7 immediately and force black to be the one who decides, do I repeat? Do I not repeat? That takes another chunk off of his clock if he decides to play on.
And it's a good psychological question is for Teddy, do you feel like I need to win this particular game because I'm down 2 points and I'm up a pawn, so I have that going as well? Or I have 35 seconds left. I haven't really been playing well in my time trouble because he's been the only one who's been getting in time trouble. So I just make the draw, get on the scoreboard, and I was down 2 games against Levy Rosman. I came back and won that. So maybe I have that kind of history on my side. So we have a repetition and look at Teddy.
I like it.
Is he going to repeat? And he does repeat.
And, he sort of kicks the field goal. One might say, oh, this was his chance. He's up a pawn. But again, like you said, he looks at the clock. He gets on the scoreboard. He has the white pieces. I think this is a very sensible decision. There's no need to go absolutely crazy when you're down 2 points and basically the rest of the match is still ahead of you.
Yeah, and if we were to sum this up, maybe I'm not being completely fair, but what I would assess this match so far, and if you ask me, I would say that Teddy has won the opening battle and nothing else. And Alina has, she's played decently in the opening, especially her position with black. But I think we've liked Teddy's position out of the opening in all 3 games thus far. And now even in this 4th game, as they repeat the line, we said white should be better here. You turn on the engine, but he blundered this knight on c3. This is the exact repetition of game 2 of this match. And here Teddy played queen to d1. And after knight e8, b4, knight a6, made this mistake with queen, didn't play queen b3, but now he can play queen b3, which defends both b4 and this knight on c3. So I think this is just an easy improvement for Teddy. The line is safe and sound for white as long as you're not hanging pieces. So once again, Danya, maybe I'm wrong here, but I do feel like Teddy's gotten the advantage of the opening.
No, he absolutely has. And there's an interesting dilemma psychologically when, you win a game in a certain opening, but you were worse out of that opening. Repeating that opening, it reminds you of that last game. So it gives you that good memory. But at the same time, you want to be objective. So Alina, it's interesting that she's repeated both with white and with black, an opening that landed her in quite a bit of trouble. But Teddy's got to get out of his head here and sort of realize that he is better, and he goes queen d1. Interesting.
But look what Alina did. She played a5. So she's saying, I'm not going to repeat that because I saw an improvement for you, and so I don't want to get in the same exact position.
Oh, so he did play queen d1 last game. Okay, so a5 is the novelty.
Yes, it was the new move from the earlier game, and now 98, same plan, but not allowing b4 so easily. I like what Alina has done. In many regards, she's gained herself a tempo. I mean, b3, that feels slow here. But
Teddy's playing with fire again, making that knight on c3 vulnerable. It would be funny if Alina goes knight a6 here. And then Teddy castles.
Oh my gosh, you're a mean guy, Danya.
Oh, thank you for letting. I didn't know that, Robert. You're the first person who's ever said that to me.
Well, your knight a6, the only purpose of that move is to threaten rook takes c3 once again.
Not all of us can generate multiple ideas with one move, Robert. I'm just a mere mortal. And Alina reworking her bishop from h8 to e7, I like that idea a lot. It might seem un-King's Indian of her to unfianchetto the bishop, but that bishop on h8, as you pointed out, Robert, was a sight for sore eyes. So now she's got g5 under control as well.
Right, and that's the important square. She can play f5 as is needed, and the pressure on e4 is going to be a problem for white. So overextending on the king side like this, you played h4, h5, h6. That spent some time. You also brought your knight to g5 and had to bring it back to f3. You brought your queen to c2 and back to d1. I mean, that's a lot of tempi here that white has spent just shuffling pieces around. And to Alina's credit, she's made useful moves. She brought a rook to c8, pawn to a5, which stops b4. The bishop now comes to e7 so that f5 can happen without any sort of white piece jumping to g5. It feels like, in this kind of position, and look at the clock, Danya, I mean, I'm talking about the position, but the time is telling the tale game after game. I already like Black's position, but you can't be in this position and down 2.5 minutes on the clock.
And we thank Levy Rosman for a very generous raid. Thank you to International Master Levy Rosman. A warm welcome to Levy's viewers. I just think Black is better here. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, even objectively, we discuss a lot of these positions. There's objective, advantage for White, but practical chance for Black. I think here, Black is probably just objectively better. The question is, what do you take? Bishop f5 is tempting because it comes with tempo, but gf is sort of more in the spirit of the King's Indian, maintaining kind of the integrity of the pawn structure.
Right, because you're capturing towards the center, and this pawn h6 in the long run, in an endgame, that's a weakness, not a strength. So g takes f5 is standard. It also opens up the g file for Black's rook or queen to start an attack on the white king. So bishop takes f5, though, as you point out, hits the rook on b1, also gives access to the d3 square, which sometimes is a nuisance. So I would probably take with the g-pawn, but I completely understand her time spent on this decision, and she takes with the bishop. So does that surprise you, or?
Yes, it actually does, because after rook c1, another sort of downside is, well, you weaken the e4 square, and an interesting thing is that if White ever lands a knight on e6, even if he sacks a pawn, I mentioned this idea earlier, but with the pawn structure as it is, that could actually be a very unpleasant idea, especially if White then maintains control over the d5 square. So maybe she has something in mind here, maybe knight d3. So I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but I don't know. Maybe this is also perfectly fine. I honestly don't think there's such a huge difference. It's not a game changer.
Okay, and she plays knight f6, and I'm thinking knight g5 because you were talking about the e6 square. Knight a4 play.
Interesting.
Actually, I sort of like that move.
Interesting idea by Mr. Coleman. Yes. The Russian delegation approves of this choice. Knight e4. Okay, so Alina wants to keep her knight on c5.
But Danya, White had less space, so trading off these knights feels like it sort of helps his position breathe a little bit.
I agree.
Bishop e3, for instance, right here, just hitting the c5. There it is.
Very nice. The Teddy Coleman whisper strikes again.
And the point is that now I'm throwing a take on c5, and your e5 pawn is hanging. If you ever play a move like b6, just anytime you push a pawn, think about the squares it weakens. b6 weakens a6 and c6, and my bishop can already go to b5 as is needed. So I would refrain from playing b6 for as long as possible. And Danya, let me ask you, do you take on c5 here? Or?
I mean, intuitively, I'm trying to make sense of that line. Bishop c5, dc, d6, and Alina's definitely intending e4. So very concrete play, but something doesn't sit well with me there. White has knight e5 in that position. I feel like Teddy should have taken that knight, because now Alina can play maybe b6 or move that knight away entirely. I think bishop c5 was interesting. I'm
going to bring up the analysis board just to show everybody, because we're talking ideas, but it's good to show what people were talking. Bishop c5. The point is that you have this pawn structure on the queen side, 3-on-2 for Black, but I have this passed d pawn, and Donna's saying, "Oh, let me go e4 now." But knight e5 is such a nice tactical idea. The point is, if you take me on e5, I have queen d5 check, scooping up your bishop, and you need that dark square bishop to protect your king. So White is pushing forward in a position like this. I like that idea, but I still like Teddy's position in the game, because he plays b4, and it's sort of a standard like queen's pawn game where White is just very active, and Black's pieces don't look well coordinated at this
point. Queen b3, very circumspect as well, defending the c3 square. Also notice that pawn on h6. We discussed how it could be both a strength and a liability, but here White's bishop on e3 is kind of now pegged to that pawn. That was another advantage of capturing on f5 with a pawn. In certain positions, Black could play f4, intercepting, and that's what Alina tries to do here, but that introduces a whole fresh set of weaknesses. Now that bishop on f5 is also vulnerable. Oh.
And look at that move by Teddy, saying, you just push your g-pawn, making your king a little bit more suspect on the king side. I'm going to try to trade off your knight, which is so nicely centralized. And my knight on f3, if we just go back one little half move here, the knight f3 is not doing anything. It has like no promise in this position. It's not attacking a square. So let me trade off my knight that hasn't been very active for your best piece. And well, what's going to happen? Maybe White will play b5, maybe even b6. and just try to take advantage of the queen side a little bit, because there are two open files here, the C file and the A file. And the pawn on B7 feels like an eventual place I want to attack. It's very difficult to get to it. But now that black has also exposed her king side a bit, it feels like white can shift from flank to flank a little.
Yeah, and Aaron Nimzovich, sort of the founder of modern positional chess, talked about what you just said, where when you have more space and your opponent has more weaknesses, one of the sort of hidden advantages of that is you can shift. You know, he calls it like a trampoline. You can jump from one flank to the other very effortlessly, whereas your opponent has to laboriously shift his weight from side to side, and eventually you could kind of get overextended like that.
Indeed. And I mean, this queen on E7, right, it's protecting G5, but you can foresee a time where white plays B5, B6, and rook C7, giving up a pawn on the C7 square to distract that queen. And here's B5. Watch out for counterattack, though. Bishop E5.
G4. We all know what Alina's capable of in the realm of incredible tactical resources. So rook C7 maybe, but then queen takes H6 already threatens checkmate. I'm not sure that's anything to worry about, though, G3. But notice Teddy's clock. I'm getting a little bit stressed about that time situation.
Actually, queen H6 does bother me, because G3 would be the way to stop the checkmate, and the queen comes down to H3, setting up sacrifices on the square.
Look at the clock. He's got 10 seconds.
He just has to move. He just has
got to make
move.
a decision. Oh, my goodness. He takes.
Okay, what's his idea? To go rook C1 next?
Rook C1, I think. Yeah, but still, I mean, queen H6 still threatens checkmate.
Yep. And
this
then
is
he'll play
definitely
G3.
not the way.
He'll play G3, and that pawn on B7, there's bishop A6 ideas to sacrifice my bishop to spring free the B pawn. And that's the thing that happens in a position like this. The black queen is distracted towards the king side when some action out of nowhere will happen on the queen side. So watch out for a bishop A6 type of move. And H6 is hanging. We both agree that black is stealing a pawn, but it's not the whole story. It's not just the material count, because black will still be stuck to the G5 pawn as well. So rook.
I like that decision. Very practical given Teddy's clock. Queen takes H6. Now if rook C7, there's rook A1 check.
Okay, so queen B4 threatens, but allows bishop D4. So queen H2 is up at bishop F1.
Bishop F1, okay.
But bishop D4 becomes an option for, okay, bishop F1, there
queen
it is.
G4 probably.
Bishop G2, okay, that's a good defensive move, but I think
rook A3. But then rook C7 maybe. Maybe Teddy holds this together. Maybe there's nothing. But then bishop takes G3. Rook A3 creates that
I would
threat.
start with bishop G2 just to stop your threat, because I know what you're up to. Bishop G2.
1 second. Okay.
Oh my gosh, he played that with
E3.
1.2 seconds.
Bishop E4 is an idea, but doesn't quite work because of bishop G2.
Yeah, you're trying to checkmate me on H1, but I always have bishop G2.
Oh my, 2 seconds in this position is...
Ooh. It's hard to know who's better.
Where I'm just... I just can't watch that.
But sorry, but the chess, I like white, but practically, because of the time, I like black. Bishop G2.
Okay, bishop G2. He's making it happen.
He's looking better.
Takes in queen F3. There's just king G1. That's nothing to worry about per se, right?
And she's now under 20 seconds left.
Yep.
She cannot get down under 10 seconds. You don't want to have a total time scramble.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, he's getting moves off barely. Queen E3.
Oh, he's gonna move. Oh,
he barely got it off.
He's got 1.2 seconds. This next move is going to be tough.
And yeah, because you want to pre-move, but if you pre-move and
he
got it up, queen H5.
Yeah, but queen H5 and rook A1. There's rook C1. He's hanging on.
Rook C1. He's barely hanging on here, and she's now under 5 seconds.
She takes and probably just takes on D5. Very.
Oh, yeah, queen C8. I would have given that.
Yeah, but king G7, E3.
King H2.
Oh, queen D1. Queen D1 and E2 wins.
No, but
she sees it.
Queen G5.
Oh, is that perpetual?
Queen takes H7. Okay, he goes queen G5. Queen G7.
No, she lets it. She lets him. He lets her out of the cage. King takes B6. Oh, there's always then King B5, and there's nothing to worry about now.
Yeah, you couldn't have. This is not the way to do it.
Oh my goodness.
Her king is out. Her king has escaped, and black is up too many pawns.
And black doesn't even need to focus on promoting. I mean, she can just win slowly, and that's exactly what happens. Wow. That is a heartbreaker for Mr. Coleman, and we see him leaning back in his chair. But Teddy has demonstrated resilience before. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's a theme, right? Teddy is just getting himself into way too much time trouble. He's trying to be perfect in his play before that moment, and he's had some rough positions. He's had some good positions, but the point is that he doesn't have time to calculate when you really need to at some critical moments. And Alina, I'm going to bring up the analysis board because I want to highlight something she did in that last game, which you commended in the moment. And now that I have a little bit of time to reflect, it was so smart. And the way she won this game, it doesn't look like it from a chess point of view, but here on 36 rook c1, she did not trade rooks, allow a trade to liquidate. She played rook to a8 saying, I want to keep material on the board. You have 8 seconds left. I have over a minute. And that caused some confusion, had Teddy's clock tick down to 2 seconds. And eventually she was able to score the full point in his time triple. So kudos to IM Kashlinskaya understanding the dynamic, understanding that Teddy is not really feeling good under the duress of these minimal seconds on the clock. So now we get to the live position. Danya, I just wanted to highlight that once more because I think from a match strategy and a game strategy point of view, you were totally correct to call that moment out.
Yeah, I mean, she just understands. And the problem is the amount of decisions that White had to make in time pressure. 1 or 2, Teddy made them, but eventually you just make a mistake with 2 seconds on the clock. Mathematically speaking, if you have 7 tactical decisions to make, you are going to stumble at some point. So here we have the so-called Cambridge Winters variation, also known as the Cambridge Summers.
It's the Cambridge Springs, but you're making a really
I would like you to laugh and to applaud my humor here.
That was an awful seasonal joke. I didn't appreciate it at all. We were getting along so well until that moment.
All right, what did I just do? Well, it's been what, 45 minutes or so that you held me in your good graces. So I think that's a record.
I thought you were going to make a kind of an easier joke in the sense that Teddy went to Harvard and that's in Cambridge.
Oh, Harvard Springs. Okay.
There you go. I mean, something like that would have been
hilarious.
Just not funny at all. But if you were going to tell a bad joke, you might as well tell one that makes more sense. But knight on e4, bishop on h4. Danya, we both think, I'm speaking for you a little bit, but there's no attack just yet for White. But you see a knight f6 type of maneuver and you have to pause. You say, all right, is that sacrifice coming? And am I just going to get checkmated over there on the king side? Or is Black going to, I'm going to put attack in quotes, with a rook c8 and take over the c file more quickly? I like Black's position. Again, I mean, there's no attack that I see just yet, and the c file is very important.
It really all hinges on whether or not, I mean, White could be in very serious trouble if Alina doesn't find some sort of attacking chances. Maybe what you do is, I mean, I feel like that back rank could cost White. So maybe something like take c8 and then go h3 and go queen g4 and hope for the best. But if that queen side evaporates, if a2 is gone, I honestly don't see it, because bishop f8 also, Robert, is another defensive move that could be played at the right moments, just basically covering everything. I think there's not enough horsepower. There's f4, f5 ideas, but objectively, I don't think White's got enough here.
Yeah, f4, f5, it feels like an all-in approach. And knight d6, you don't have to take, but of course you are going to take on d6. And now, is that pawn a strength? Is bishop e7 coming in to reinforce that pawn and White is happy? Or is having a bishop on e7 and no clear way to actually kick that knight from d7? Knights are excellent blockading pieces, especially against a dark square bishop, because my knight's on a light square, your bishop's on a dark square, you cannot attack my knight, kick it off the square. Queen a4 hits c2, hits d4, but there's sometimes where White just gives up the d4 pawn and with like a rook c1 to take over the open file. So, Danya, do you like this decision by Alina to trade rooks, or would you?
I do.
Rook
to
c1?
Trade rooks? I don't see. Okay, so what was she worried about in the event of rook c1? Probably the d4 pawn. She didn't want to lose the pawn, but now Teddy's got that dominance over the file. I actually don't like her decision, because something about this just doesn't look right. Maybe rook c2. Maybe, I mean, if Teddy picks off that d6 pawn, then Alina's in very serious trouble. So as you pointed out, everything hinges on whether or not White's going to be able to tie herself down to that pawn. But again, that queen, so queen f3, threatening, I guess, potential queen a8 checks. I don't know what to make of this position. It's very complicated. I don't know how to evaluate it, to be honest.
I think Black is much better. And the reason why is, I know you need to kick my knight out and then push the pawn, but all of the practical elements favor Black, right? I have a better pawn structure, despite the fact that this pawn d6 is the most advanced pawn. My 2-on-1 on the queen side that may become a 2-on-0 after rook takes a2, for instance. That's going to be an issue for White to deal with.
I agree.
And if I trade queens, I'm just pretty much winning already. So
absolutely, with those connected passers. And I like Teddy's time management a little bit more. He made that decision, rook takes a2, with enough speed. Now notice that queen on a4 now defends the knight on d7. I agree, Robert. I think Black is maybe even close to winning now, if he's careful.
Yep, and I like Icelandic Gambit's comment, the computer loves Black, but this seems like a difficult position to handle if he gets into time pressure again. And anybody can sit and look at an engine and say, oh, well, I mean, this person must be better, but the why is essential. And why we like Black as well.
Oh my God, queen takes d1.
Oh, it's a free rook.
Oh my God, with check.
That's what Teddy needed, huh?
That is exactly what he needed.
He needed Alina to blunder a full rook, and I was just about to talk about some of the elements of the position, but the queen on a4 did everything. It defended the knight on d7 and attacked his rook on d1 and helped the b-pawn's progress. So Teddy bounces back. Alina still up 2 points in the match, but that must feel good, just to get your first victory.
It does, and we see Teddy with the What is e4?
What's going on? Is this overconfidence?
I don't know. Geez, I mean, clearly he prepared this, but what is this? Knight takes c4?
Knight e4, then maybe you take on e5 and queen e2. I don't know.
Somehow Alina believes him, but even here, he's got to be careful not to overextend himself. But I guess bishop d3 now.
Wow, if e4 is a move.
I'm not intimately familiar with this line, but.
And without divulging too much about Teddy Coleman's repertoire, I mean, we are very close friends. I know he has been studying a lot of chess recently, and he was super excited to play in this event. And so, when Teddy plays a move like e4 instantly, it's either a horrible mouse up when he meant to go e3, or he's prepared this. It's not some forgetful moment. But you were correct as well to say e4 is risky just strategically because look at the d4 square. Now, if you're a queen's pawn player, right, you say, I love getting my pawns on c4, d4, and e4. That's the best possible situation. But black can strike back with knight to c6 and bring this knight into d4. And because you can't push your pawns backwards, that's a very committal decision.
Right. And this is sort of the essence of I think, what's called hyper-modern openings. These people who advocated for the King's Indian in the 1920s, for example, they were laughed out of the tournament. What are you doing, giving me this huge center? But eventually, players realized that this idea of attacking a very vast pawn center, and of course, I'm very biased toward those types of openings because I'm a King's Indian player, but people realize that you need to give those types of openings very serious credit. With that being said, I think White's gotten a slight. I mean, Teddy has the two bishops. As long as he can defend that e4 pawn, he's in pretty good shape here. But Alina can play bishop h5, bishop g6, knight c5 comes into play. It's a position in the spirit of the King's Indian, even though there's no fianchetto bishop on g7.
Yeah, even though it's nothing like the King's Indian, it's in the spirit of the King's Indian. Okay, so this is a really key position done. Two bishops against two knights. Alina understanding that, hey, the bishops don't really have too much open space to work with, but is bishop g5, and there it's played. It's not really about capturing on f6 just yet. It's about the threat being strong in the execution. But now the issue may be 4. Oh, I love that decision.
Go g4 and just go for checkmate. G4, h4.
So Teddy induces h6 and break this pin. And now after h6 brings the bishop back, it's like, wait, didn't I just give black a free move because I could have played bishop e3 right away? Black wants this move h6 to h7 back. This is an interesting decision. We've seen players like Magnus Carlsen do that early in the Sicilians. And actually, right now, this is like a reverse Sicilian in some ways because now with the pawn structure...
Now b5, I'm not sure about this because Alina's also got this idea of playing b5, b4, a4, and then b3. That also comes very fast. But she's prioritizing piece play. I would just go h4 here. Knight c4, bishop c1.
I love positions like this.
Or this. Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating finale. I can just feel it. There's going to be some fireworks shortly.
Yeah, I mean, bishop c1, just g5. The bishops are so much stronger than knights in positions like this because the knights are all in on the white king. But the knights do nothing to protect the black king. White's bishop on c1 protects b2 while allowing g5 to be punched through. So that just is a clear demonstration of why bishops are strong. g5 here, I've just pushed
g5. What is Alina intending? Maybe h5, but that just buys her some time. But I don't see an alternative. You cannot take on g5. That is just... Oh my goodness,
gosh,
there's no way she's going to get away with this. f6, but again, rook g6, rook g1. As you point out, Robert, that bishop on c1, for now it's serving a defensive purpose. On a moment's notice, it could leap into h6 and just crush that g7 pawn to bits. Oh my goodness, I don't know about hg. I mean, I think after h5, the game continues. Black can try to maneuver her queen to b5. There's still some attacking chances. Now just looks almost like checkmate on the cards.
And that Teddy's feeling better because look at his clock management. He's actually ahead on the clock. He is in a position where he has an attack going. And, one of these lines that can happen, as you said, f6 will allow rook f7 to defend g7. But White's plan is still so easy. Rook g6, rook to g1, queen to h5. Maybe then this rook can swing from g6 to h6. And it's almost like the easiest possible play for White. You have so many different options. All of them look good. Now, sometimes that's too many good options is a bad thing, but here it's a great thing because rook g6, rook g1, you can play h4, h5, h6 if you want to play it slowly, because black's attack, well, doesn't really seem like much of an attack just yet.
Yeah, and Teddy's going to reap the rewards of, making moves like castle long quickly. Earlier he took, a minute and a half, 2 minutes on some of these decisions. Now he said, okay, I'm going to make these decisions quickly. They might not be the best moves, but it's going to give me a lot of time for the critical phase of the game. But here, I don't think he should overthink it. I think rook g6, rook g1, as you pointed out, Robert, that's just such an effective plan. He can also go rook h5 and try to infiltrate that way. But there's a small danger that black will be able to run her king, somehow evacuate the king, although I highly doubt that as well.
Right, that's a kind of a pipe dream. Is king f7, right. King e8, king d8, running that king away, excuse me, but doesn't look very likely. And Danya, what do you think he's considering here? So rook g6, rook h5, as you mentioned, maybe retreating rook g3 just to help overprotect the a3 square or the b3 square, but he does eventually play rook g6. And how do you stop as a rook g1, queen h5?
Yeah, bishop h. I think many roads lead to Rome in this position. Also, rook g1, queen f5, and rook h6 is another idea, and then queen h7 is devastating.
Yep.
Also, that c8 rook to add insult to injury, that's also undefended, so that could be thrown into the mix. No, this is just absolutely overwhelming. Again, the key for Teddy not to overthink it. Just go rook g1 and save himself a little bit of time for the moment when he has to calculate sort of the decisive continuation.
And he must be considering h4 or something like that, because otherwise rook g1 is the move. It's so natural here. Black's attack is very far off, and the bishop on c1, while I talked about being a multi-purpose piece, defending b2. b2 doesn't need defense. I mean, it's only attacked one time by a knight there, and there's no checkmate.
Plenty defended already, yeah.
And he plays h4. I knew that's what he was considering, and it's probably a good move, but it feels slower.
I agree, Robert. I think there was just mate. If he had gone rook g1 and then queen h5, rook h6, I felt like that was just mate.
And I like Alina's move a lot because queen c7 says, wait a second, if my knights move out the way, your bishop on c2 will be hanging. And h5, oh my gosh,
There's
I don't know.
some tactics that start, storm clouds that start gathering around white's game, but Alina's got basically 2 moves to whip something up here.
Right. And the moves are, that we likely are considering it's like a queen b6 just to hit b2 right away, or a knight move away from the c file so that when the next knight moves, the c2 bishop is hanging. But Donnie, even that doesn't seem like it amounts to much at all.
Yeah, it's very artificial. I mean, if you go knight a6, oh, knight b3, whoa. Okay, good.
Whoa,
what a move. So AB, she wants knight d2 check.
Yep.
What an idea. But I don't think it works, but still.
And the reason why it shouldn't work is just bishop takes b3.
Exactly.
Probably. And then I take with the queen on b3. I don't want to open up the...
Definitely, yeah. Take on b3, and that queen can always swing back. Now h6, once again, is a huge threat. So kudos to Alina. That was, she's showing some grit, but I just don't feel like there's enough firepower to mount just a serious resistance. And here she tries to evacuate her king.
You can even take with the bishop on h6 and play rook c1.
Right, but then I think in the position there's a little bit of chances for black, But I would go rook h6 and rook h7.
Well, you don't know Teddy Coleman like I do, clearly, because he takes bishop h6 with a3, which is, the most defensive you can possibly get here.
Yep.
Rook h8 can be played threatening rook
b6.
Rook h8 threatens rook takes h6. So that would be a rook h7 does the same. But the problem with rook h7 is you don't really threaten rook h6 because then rook g7 check is a counter strike against your queen.
Yeah, I would consider going queen b6 with black, and not because that endgame is anything resembling defensible, but I feel like from a psychological perspective, sort of winning a long endgame is a bit of an unpalatable prospect.
Whoa,
here, queen h3, queen e6. Chiseling his way into that position. Queen d7 forced.
I thought queen g was a big blunder because some kind of knight takes a3 or something like that. But the thing is, the queen still defends the third rank. But that move caught me off guard, and I went full Ric Flair with a huge woo. But can I just take on d7, play bishop g7, and win the f6 pawn, or is that?
Yeah, but this is what I meant. What I meant. I think in his mind, Teddy doesn't want any kind of endgame, even though I agree, Rob, but I think that's just completely overwhelming. But so is this. Now White's king is pretty safe. Rook G7 is an idea. He's just got to be a little bit careful. And for Alina, I would consider king D8. I mean, just at all costs, evacuate the king, force White to beat you in a slightly different way.
And there it is, king D8. How about, so if I move my bishop to G7, knight D2 check. So you don't want to forget that knight has the square. Rook C1 play. The rook is protected
against king C7. That's a brilliant move, actually.
It really is, because rook G8, take on C8, and then try to pin this knight and win it. That, I mean, looks pretty forceful.
Yeah, cook me some filet mignon on C4. I mean, and that's something that takes a lot of foresight to realize, okay, not to have that tunnel vision where you only think about how to give checkmate. You also realize that you can use the crippled position of your opponent's pieces.
My gosh.
Oh, rook G8, this is filth.
Where's the mate, though? Where's the mate?
Bishop F. Oh, oh my goodness, rook H1 and then bishop F8 was a really nice idea. Queen G7. Okay, there's plenty of ideas.
I knew you wanted to go for something like that, but I think this is... Oh, wait. He just hung a piece.
Oh, my goodness.
Queen F6.
Oh, my goodness. But rook E7. Rook E7.
And then bishop F8. You have to do something like this.
But knight D2. Bishop F8, knight D2.
Oh, gosh. This is just getting...
Oh, my goodness. Queen E7, though. Queen E7.
No, same thing with knight D2 at the end.
Oh,
so now
my goodness.
Teddy blundered in time trouble. I mean, this was such an excellent game.
It was. Rook F7. Now he's just down a full rook for no compensation. Now Alina's the one who's going to checkmate him.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Oh, my goodness.
That's, I mean, that could, I hate to call things early, Danya.
No, you're right. You're right.
The match, that was about to be a 1-point match. Now it's a 3-point match, and we are going to have to bring that game up on the analysis board to just go over what just happened.
I didn't even see it took me a while to register what happens.
Well, we're bringing it up on the analysis board to show everybody that after rook to G8, rook G7, after king D8, he spent only a second, really, 2 seconds on queen G6, forgetting that once the king left the 7th rank, the rook on G7 was fully under attack. And so he just hung a piece in the position. And, well, he couldn't even take on E7 next because it looks like you're only going to be down one knight, but knight D2 check actually picks up the rook on C1. Mm-hmm. That is bad news for Teddy. We're going to go to the live position because we once again are in these theoretical waters, but the knight is already on F5 here for black. So Alina put her bishop into D6 and then back to A3, giving white a tempo with knight E7 to F5. So what do you make of this position, Don?
Well, again, we have a similar structure. This time, Alina can first of all take on F5 and go queen D6 and stop black from castling. That's one idea. This is definitely an improved version of what we saw 2 games ago. I mean, white's got more tempi, but I'm generally skeptical of these types of positions because I feel like black's very close to consolidating. But to go back to what just happened, I think Teddy might have made the second move of the variation. I think he intended to give a check first and maybe just forgot to do it. That happens sometimes. Absolute heartbreaker. So, Teddy seems very composed. He's very hard to break, and we've seen him prove his resilience and his grit match after match. So we'll see. That has to come into play right now if he wants to keep this under control.
And this position is pretty scary because by inviting this knight to F5, so in that other game, the knight was on F6, right? Now it's on F5. But with the knight on F5, there are always opportunities for white to capture on F5 or play G4 and kick this knight away. But G4 is one of those double-edged moves that is quite risky because you're pushing a pawn in front of your king. So Alina plays bishop C1, forces Teddy's queen back, and then plays bishop B2, saying that it's better for white that the queen is in a more defensive stance on C7 than an active one on F4.
And now, once again, knight E5. So she's paving the way for the queen to come to G4. The problem is, let's say Teddy takes on E5, goes queen C6, but there's bishop E4 as well. So there's definitely, more palpable compensation here than the last time they reached this type of position. I don't know what you think. I feel like here, white's, it's still probably insufficient, but practically speaking, it feels somehow a little bit more dangerous for black.
It does, but I also am somehow liking black's knight on F5 more and more. At first, I was like, oh, that could be a loose piece, but it just totally stops white's attack because you have no threats in the H7 score. Remember in the previous game, the bishops on B2 and B1 were staring at the the black king side, and it still seems to be the case, but a knight on F5 not just blocks the bishop on D3, it protects G7. So,
but I like this move because queen H3 after knight F6 creates more pressure on black's king side.
You're not wrong. That's true. What about some kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to time a sort of queen c6 move, but I never get it. Like 95 bishop e5 queen c6, but then you bishop e4, of course. So.
Or bishop f5, yeah.
Nope. Oh yeah, I thought I was mating you, but you're mating me first. Nice.
Well, you are mating me, except I've got a queen on g4.
Black can play knight f6. That feels like the most natural move.
Yes, queen h3.
Yeah,
and then your idea of g4 potentially can be thrown into the mix there as well.
Right, and that's actually very scary for black because now all of the white pieces staring at the black king.
Okay, now this is either a very good move or a very bad move. I think it might actually be a very good move. Because knight d7, queen d7, and Teddy's just basically unloading all of this weight from his position. And he's paying the price, you know, in terms of the fact that e6 is weak, but I don't think it's something white can exploit.
I'm with you. And actually, you know, in these lines where even if you lose, say, a pawn by a capture on f5 at some moment, you get into an opposite colored bishop position where the pawn on f6 is very useful because look at this bishop on b2. It's a lot worse against this little pawn chain of g7, f6 than it is with the pawn on f7. So you're essentially saying that in the long term, this bishop on b2 has less scope. And so I would be willing to even give you a pawn back on f5, but I don't even see a way for Alina to win it. She brings the knight back to f3, and
that's a good move.
Yeah, it's a frustrating move to deal with. Queen c6, I guess.
Yeah, queen c6, but then bishop e4.
You still have this bishop e4 stuff.
White's got so many of these, you know, these tickle ideas, right? It's very easy position to blunder, and also rook e8, rook takes c6 is a potential idea as well. You know, rook e8 trying to give, you know, just equalize the position, give away that pawn on f5, but I feel like rook takes c6 would be very strong, potentially.
Yeah, if you move the f rook, you'll get the f8 square for your knight, so that's probably...
true.
But the difficulty of moving the f rook is the f6 pawn becomes more of a target, right? Because the knight on d7 currently protects it. There's a pin down the g file, but I'm always a little nervous, and he brings this rook.
He does it.
What about your rook e6 move now?
I need to stop suggesting tactical ideas because it seems to be every time.
Wait,
I give an example of a potential blunder. Lena decides on rook a d1.
I liked your rook e6 move.
I'm not seeing a necessarily adequate response. Maybe knight h6 against rook e6, but that doesn't inspire confidence.
No, it does not. And okay, it said rook d1, which is the, you know, quote unquote natural move to play. Bring your rook towards the center, another piece into the attack. But what black needs like one move to shore up, like somehow, like you just get that one move and you're like, well, now I have no more weaknesses and I can turn the tables. But rook takes e6 still even bigger threat now.
Right, exactly. Now that everything is playing, white's position is just breathing. I mean, every single piece is coordinated very nicely, which doesn't mean that black's not better necessarily, but you know, it's probably somewhere close to dynamic equality here. Maybe bishop takes f3 and knight e5 is practical. I'm not saying that's the objective best, but trading off a couple pieces. Is black really going to be at risk of being worse with that d4 square for his knight? I don't think
I like
so.
knight h6. I was going to say knight h6. Right. I was waiting for you to finish, and e5.
Which move?
e5.
So you're not scared of like bishop h7 or d7. You just want to move your queen there.
I am scared, but I figured that at some point getting e5 was valuable. Rook e7 is probably just way smarter than what I was thinking. But wait, e6?
Rook e6?
Is he going to go bishop f3 after rook e6?
But then rook e7.
Oh, gosh, and
d7
my goodness,
still hanging. This starting to get out of control. Look at the clock. Alina almost 3 minutes ahead. That is...
And you see Teddy?
He just missed it.
He totally missed it. But he plays rook f to e8, and it's not the end of the world because knight f8 now.
Okay.
Right? Just play knight f8.
I would be a little bit scared. I'm not sure about rook d to e1. I would have taken a little bit of time there because Alina had tactical ideas in that position. And now there's mass trades, and that obviously favors white.
It favors white because of the bishop pair, but it favors black because you're not getting checkmated.
I'm sorry, I meant to say it favors black. Yeah, I just misspoke. Yeah, definitely. Teddy will sell his kingdom for the rook trades along the e file.
Is there some kind of rook e7, bishop f6 with the h6 knight hanging?
Okay, so rook e7, bishop f6. I'll take on e1. We'll take, and all of white's pieces are somehow loose, but I can't quite put my finger on. Maybe bishop c8 in that position?
Yeah.
But just queen h4, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think that white gets away with it, but you're right. White is feeling a bit loose there. But Alina very wisely spending serious time on this move because this bishop f6 tactic after rook e7 could net her a pawn.
Yeah, and it could force Teddy to think rook e3. I like that Alina's keeping at least one pair of rooks on. Nope, never mind.
What was that,
She's
Danya?
not.
What was that?
Stricken off the record.
Actually,
We're on our objection.
Danya, this position here, though, I know white has the two bishops, but I don't really love white's position now.
No, I don't either. I agree.
This pawn, actually giving yourself an isolated pawn on e3, I don't love that decision.
I think Alina was trying to plug that e-file. She was worried that a queen on h3 would be a little bit misplaced. Maybe black at queen e7 ideas, but I agree with you, Robert. That's a pretty steep price to pay. And now that queen comes to d6, it's the same problem. Potential queen infiltration, although white's not at risk of that yet.
Well, bishop c2. Bishop c2, there's bishop takes f3, and then some kind of queen d2 stuff. Oh,
so
bishop f3, queen d2?
Queen f2, though.
Okay, you barely get away with it.
Barely. Bishop c6. We've seen Teddy play this move before, sort of as a healthy waiting move.
Yep, it allows a4 to be more of an option for black. Knight to d7 is protected there. And I mean, black doesn't really have any weaknesses to speak of because the knight on f8 and f7, that combination is completely stopping any of white's attack.
Alina liking that idea, going bishop c3. How about them apples? Knight h4.
Oh,
I don't like that move, Robert.
That move is
okay. So that was his idea, but even h4. There's knight takes f3 and queen h2 check. I guess it's still quite good for black.
Yes, but that move h6 from a point of view of a bishop on c2 aiming at the king side. I guess the knight on f8 covers everything, and without knights, you don't care about squares like f5 as much. But he's going to trade queens. He's definitely
knowing Teddy. Yep,
and bringing the king in. I mean, it's a reasonable practical decision. Where is this bishop on c3 going to attack me? The b6 square would be the place, but how are you getting your bishop around? I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, black is probably symbolically better here, but it should be a draw, king g3. And actually, Teddy's got to be a little bit careful because king f4 and bishop f5 check. You don't want to get too smug here because white can snap G5 on e5 and go knight g5. He's got to be careful. He's got 6 seconds.
And g5 was played just in... the bishop that white needs is this dark square bishop to get active to hit the b6 pawn. Note that all of black's pawns are on dark squares, so that's what white desperately needs to play for a win. But because the king is not getting in, king f5 is always knight h6 check or bishop e7. I kick your king out and knight. I mean, this is just like a fortress.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and black can gain a couple seconds on his clock just by shuffling. Now, if I were Alina, I would try something like bishop d3 and then a3 b4 maybe, because whenever you have 5 seconds, doesn't matter how drawn it is.
Oh,
you start getting nervous. You want to play e5. Yep. 1 second.
And play knight f7.
Knight f7. Oh my God.
Oh, he lost on time. How did he lose on time?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, he was so worried about e5.
Oh my
he lost
goodness.
on time. Oh, it's just painful. It's painful at this point.
I mean, knight f7 is just. And it's easy for me to kind of sit here and say, but that is just you can't let that happen, especially when you're this down in the match.
Yeah, and he's just moving way too slowly. I mean, it's just he was kind of 1 or 2 moves away from being -1 in that, not the last game, but 2 games ago. He lost that game because he blundered a piece, and now he's in a position where he just needs to get victories. And it's not enough for us to like his position at the opening. We've liked his position at the opening in most games at this point. But that last game, you could tell he was unconfident. And when you blow positions where you're winning, you start not trusting your calculating skills.
Yep.
And unfortunately for Teddy, it cost him once more.
It was a solid endgame that he's normally so well versed at handling, but he was taking these 3-4 seconds where normally he would basically play instantly.
And Alina, to her credit, she's been just keeping an advantage on the clock pretty much every single game. And she's been very tactically alert. Just the fact that she played bishop e1, bishop h4 in that position to give herself this idea of e4, e5, that was good vision. And just she posed enough questions and Teddy didn't have all the solutions. So what's going on here? Down in d5 and e5, d4 and e4. We have pawns aiming at each other.
I'm going to confess to you, Robert, as long as I've played the King's Indian, I have never seen move 7 b5 before. I honestly don't trust it entirely, but we see again already the time situation and Alina playing very fast. So I guess it's kind of a hacky little gambit that she prepared before the match. Interesting. I might take that into consideration.
All right. Well, we've seen some trades of a d5, taking on e5, taking on d5. And wait a second. I've seen this before, but I'm trying to figure out where, because
Well, it's almost like a pano, right? A same-ish with knight c6, a6.
Right.
That pawn's sometimes sacrificed, but
yeah, this is
I don't know if Teddy's
version.
reacted in the best way.
Well, I mean, how does black get full compensation here? The bishop on g7 aiming at the pawn on b2 feels like the way, but isn't white just going to play bishop d4?
Well, rook e8, bishop d4, and queen g5 is met with f4. Ugh.
Yeah. So
yeah,
this is a pawn. Can't dismiss that. And I think I actually looked at a similar position with a student, but you're right that this doesn't come from c6, b5 like this.
What about d4 here?
So d4, your idea is that if I take you with my bishop,
and you have to
take on f3, I take, you take on d4. We see a big series of trades, perhaps, and then yeah, black certainly rook b8 at the end, and b2 pawn falls. So that looks good for black. Do I have to take on d4?
Well, your only other move is bishop f4, and then d3. You're hanging on by the skin of your teeth. But no,
why don't I have
bishop?
Why don't I have bishop f2?
Oh yeah, I thought my bad. I thought d3. I thought d3 wins a piece.
No, I have a knight on c1.
I forgot about that knight. It's such a, you just don't see a knight on c1 that often. So I just assumed it wins a piece for black.
I was so confused, Donnie. I'm like, why can I not just play bishop f2? But I was letting you talk, thinking that I was missing something.
No, you were the one missing, so clearly. But still, let me stand by partially what I said. Bishop f5 here. It's still annoying. That creates the threat of d3.
Yes, bishop f5, trying to get d3 through. And if I play knight d3,
knight
c4. Yeah, I know what you're trying to do.
That's exactly what I meant. I was just testing to see if you could refute the immediate d3. It's a little puzzle rush warm-up for you, Robert.
I appreciate it. I love that you support me in all these ways and challenge me with questionable decisions.
Stimulating tactical decisions that I'm making you take.
f4, you're going to play d3. What if I play g4? I know it's a risky move, but...
g4, it's risky, but you have to... But then d3, gf, and queen g5 check.
Okay.
Yeah, you can move your king, I guess, but de.
Yeah, I was just going to take on e2 with the queen, say I'm up a pawn. I know my king is somewhat exposed, but hey, it's not my game. I'm just trying to salvage this.
Right, bishop d3 by Teddy. That's a sensible decision because, well, knight takes d3, knight takes d3. First of all, I think it's clear he's not exploited black's dubious opening play in the best way, but I kind of like that move. Okay, queen d7 by Alina, trying to keep attention.
Right, and you can't take on d4, like bishop f5, queen f5, bishop takes d4, because rook to d8, and there's problems down the d line here with the bishop pinned to the queen.
Yeah, and that's an annoying little thing that white constantly, oh, can I take it here? Can I take it here? That sucks a lot of time out of white's clock. So Teddy, once again, I mean, it must be so hard to just, I mean, this is the final game of the 5-minute portion. He's thinking about all of those opportunities he has. And now, once again, Alina has the initiative. So very practical decision by Alina to play b5. If she wins this game, I mean, that's a 5-point lead.
And that would be very bad news for Teddy Coleman because he has been able to keep ahead in the blitz portions and then struggle through the bullet, but just make it through. And I think this is, of course, his biggest deficit in any of the matches he's played thus far. And Alina Kashlinskaya, with all due respect to Danny and Levy, Alina is the strongest player of his opponents thus far. So being down in a match against her, that's not the place anybody wants to be. And a4 played so that Teddy can try to play bishop b5. But now is the time probably to take this bishop on d3. I was going to say on b3, but knight takes d3 here feels right. Yeah,
and you can take twice and take on a4. I think Teddy is kind of baiting Alina into doing that. And that's probably going to be a draw. But I don't think that's the best black can do. Alina can play more ambitiously with something like rook f to b8, potentially, going for sort of Benko-style initiative on the queen side. Not sure. Maybe she should just, settle for that 4-point lead, take on d3, and go rest. But I would strike while the iron is hot here.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about knight takes d3, rook to b8 then, just to get the bishops off the board and then put my rook on b8 so I have a threat down the b file. But rook to b8 is also good right away because bishop b5 is not possible for white. It's the move you want to play, but bishop b5 falls tactically to rook takes b5 as your rook on a1 at the end of all this is hanging for free.
Yep, good point. And she does it. And Teddy, once again, dipping a little bit low on the clock. This is a much easier position. If this were to evolve into a time scramble, these positions are so much easier to play with black because, you know, she's got a lot of pretty simple, natural improving moves. White is the one who's got to keep solving the tactical problems. Maybe b3, but does not inspire confidence either.
I was looking at b3 as just the way to keep everything together, but I was worried about eventually this queen coming to d5 and hitting b3. But for the moment, at least, b3 seems to be a worthy move.
Yeah, I don't see any other moves, actually, because you certainly do not want to give up that pawn on b2. That will just spell doom for white. So, I mean, maybe Teddy's thinking about taking on f5 first, but that allows black to play d3. So I wouldn't do that. a5. Wow, he does give that pawn away.
Okay, so is his hope that he can just distract black's pieces, keep her pieces tied down to the a pawn? But now bishop f5, I guess, is his idea. Bishop f5, queen f5, then bishop takes d4 because there are no pins with rook d8 because your rook on b2 is hanging first, I think.
Right. Well, first of all, queen f5, bishop d4, I could still go rook d8. And if you take on b2, I snap your queen and then go knight takes f3.
Yeah. You're the worst.
Thank you. See, I take that as a compliment by now, Robert.
It's just painful to see for white's king. So bishop f5 played. So, I mean, feels like that's his intention at this point to take on d4. But as you just wait, there's some rook a4 moves though. Like
at what point?
So queen f she takes with the g pawn. I would say if queen f5, bishop d4, there is like rook d8, rook a4, just protecting the bishop. It looks shaky, but
it defends. I mean, at least it reinforces the bishop. Knight d3. I'm not sure about gf though, Robert. That just seemed a little too much. And now knight d3 forces the trade. All of a sudden, white is more than back in business. White might be better here.
The black king is the one that's is going to become weak. Can't even say it. But that's the downside of giving yourself double isolated pawns against queen b5. I think that's a nice move, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. Just stabilizing the situation. And at this point, I would...
Rook takes a5?
Yeah. Teddy's still got to be careful. That second rank is Monka S. I mean...
Well, you can just take on a5 and take on d4 and...
Yeah. And I guess... Well, first of all, if you take on d4 and go queen a2, black's going to get checkmated. Queen d8, queen g5, and rook d8.
I'll show that very quickly. Check, check, and no matter which back rank square king goes to, it gets checkmated. I have the squares under control. And
queen b6, very practical, sensible decision by Alina. Notice that pawn structure. Even if you give away the f5 pawn, having those pawns on f7 and h7 is actually a good thing for black because they're like spikes, you know, that stop the vampire from rising out of the grave. It's a pretty simple draw.
That was a very interesting analogy you just gave, but that makes sense.
Well, the only reason I gave it is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
There was an old history. I used to like the History Channel, and there was an old documentary about Dracula and the real Dracula. And when they buried him, I think they buried him with spikes so that if the vampire rises out of the grave, then he'll be impaled by those spikes. Anyways.
Well, if you liked stories about Dracula, you should read The Historian. But for now,
Elizabeth, one of my favorite books.
Wow, look at us. We're on the same page here. But anyway.
It's almost like we're both history majors.
Speaking of history, the 5-minute portion of this I Am Not GM Speed Chess Champions semifinal is over. So when you come back, there will be more here on Chess.com. And we will have a very special guest, I hope. So stay tuned, everybody. We will return in just a few minutes.
Chess Championship, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, I've been following it closely. I've watched all the matches.
Did you watch mine? Please tell me you didn't watch mine. It was
No,
so
I
bad.
I watched your match against Teddy. And I thought that was like the most spectacular match of the event so far.
Really? Oh wow. Well, thank you. I mean, we did go to overtime, I guess.
Yeah, it was, I think, the closest, and there was like that one twist at the end, right when everyone thought you were dead, and then the rook on was it B7 or C7 gets hung.
Oh yeah, that's right. He hung his rook. Oh man, yeah. Well, you really did follow it. Wow, I gotta up my game next time now that I know you're watching. But you will be watching when Bartholomew and Shahadi throw down, and then your boy Teddy over there against Alina. Your thoughts on what we're gonna see in these final two matches, real quick?
I think that John should be a pretty big favorite. I actually expected Carissa to beat Greg, but it didn't quite happen. And John, I expect to be a favorite, but I am hoping for a close match. And yeah, I support Teddy. I've known him for I don't even know how long. I mean, since we were kids, we were playing chess together. So I'm supporting him to get to the final.
Yeah. And Fabi, be honest. Are you watching because you like the tournament, or you just want me, to see me, and then I have to respond to your messages when you hit me up about the tournament?
Yeah, I'm just watching for your commentary.
Control.
The highlight of my day.
Well, Fabi, thanks so much for joining us, man. And we're all looking forward to the Final Four there in the I'm Not a GM SEC, and now people know you'll be watching. But dude, you had a great event. Definitely make a case for the MVP overall, and congratulations to Team USA, even though it came up a little short. And we hope to have you again in events in the future.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Fabi. Well, he loved the I Am Not a GM Speeches Championship so much, he had to come on and join us for commentary. The one, the only Super Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana is here with us. Fabi, we've watched every single match thus far. What does Teddy need to do differently to fight back against Alina?
I think he has to manage his time better. I think that was the main thing all these games, or at least most of these games, is that when he gets into time trouble, it's hard to keep up the quality. And that leads sometimes to really bad blunders, sometimes to just misplaying the position in small ways, and at least once to running out of time.
Yeah, and you grew up playing chess with Teddy Coleman, so you've known him a long time. But it seems like this time trouble issue has been a staple. But he was able to get past Levy and before that Danny, despite these issues. But is it just that Alina is playing superstar level chess right now, and I mean she's such a strong player?
I think she's being more practical. She's keeping her time ahead. He's often getting good positions. And I feel like he's been getting the better of the opening in most games, but it really doesn't matter how good. If you're better or winning the whole game, it really doesn't matter if it comes down to an atrocious blunder when you're at 5 seconds or less. So if I was him, I would just try to keep my time, even if it lowers my quality of play at the start of the game or in the middle of the game. At least I can avoid bad blunders. That would be the first thing I would do.
That makes sense. And well, Grandmaster Gary Naroditsky, what do you think?
No, but I mean, it's of course, the quality of play is quite low. The pawns, time management, against Korpov, is much better. But
Yeah, but I mean, with the 3-minute portion, it's especially important for Teddy to follow his gut, and I think they're off. And another triangle system. Fabi, what do you think of Alina repeating this line? What to make of this position with that bishop on A3?
I don't have the position in front of me. I need to get it up.
You
have to do it blindfold.
Yeah, you gotta just follow DJ Guards. We're making you do this because you're so strong, Fabiano. We're making you do all this analysis without knowing the positions at all.
I just came ill-prepared. Let me see this.
And this time, Alina has castled queenside here, and the queens have been traded on D2. So, different approach than we've seen where Alina's been going for attacks. Here we get a more, a position that's gearing towards a potential complex middle game, queenless middle game, where white still has the two bishops but is down a pawn.
Right, now bishop c5 being threatened, so b6. What about knight e5 here? There's knight d4, okay. So for the time being, is holding it together.
Right, you can always have knight d4 as a counter shot to close, and there it is, knight e5. But
maybe g4 first would have been stronger.
That was actually really sneaky of you, Danya.
Well, got to be at my best.
And yeah, so we see that in this position, knight e5, Teddy's taking a think. Why is he not just playing knight to d4? And now he plays it. And so Fabi, knight to d4 played. I mean, black is up a pawn. So correct us if we're wrong here, but isn't black's position just good?
Yeah, and this bishop on a3 is also horribly misplaced. The thing is also if she takes and then plays b3, which seems natural, I mean, he'll fortify the knight with e5.
Yep.
Okay, so she's playing bishop f3, which is kind of asking for knight e5, but it probably doesn't work too well. But knight e5, bishop a, knight and knight c4 was definitely an option that he could have considered.
Yeah, this is starting to look like Teddy just going to say, I want to keep material level, play king to e7, get out of the pin, move my knight, or rook c7 first. And the point is that black's king is actually in no real danger. And this a5, c5 configuration means that b4 is never possible for white.
Rook d6 there, so it was scary, a5.
Yeah, I was going to say that rook d6, you can't really free yourself. Well, now maybe you can play knight f6 and get out of that.
Yeah, rook d6 actually is super annoying because of this pawn on b6. And then after b6 falls, c5 is in trouble as well.
I don't really like Teddy's position anymore. Because, okay, knight f6, you have to... I mean, you might have rook d6, knight d5. This seems to work out, but still, after bishop b2, the bishop is coming to e5, and it looks like black is not fully coordinated.
Right.
And again, the time situation, Teddy's dipping pretty low.
Yeah, this has been the theme of the match, as Fabi pointed out. And by the way, Fabi, I don't know if you know this, but as we go forward, get more openings, you're only allowed to cite IM games from that opening. So you can't be like, oh, I played this against the
MVL, none of that.
Yeah, none of that. Okay, so just so you know.
Okay, now I know. Luckily, I don't really know many games. Like I don't have much of a memory for players, so I might remember positions, but I could never tell you the players.
Okay, well then just let us know that it's some IM that maybe doesn't even exist, and we'll believe you.
This rook d8 move is kind of strange to me because you're not ever getting out of this pin. Like now after rook d6, I don't see how you're freeing yourself. You play bishop b7, but you don't really have a next move to get out.
What about your bishop d5? Oh, it doesn't work anymore because it's just taking
rook d7. Yeah, like Lena can d6, probably chill.
F7, f3, and I don't see your next move. So rook d8 really, yeah, I don't like that move at all.
This doesn't look fun.
Like if it was my move and I was, if it was black's move here, I would consider rook f8 or something like that.
Just to run out the way.
Just to free myself somehow, because how else are you going to get your pieces out?
And what do you think Alina's aversion to rook d6 has been? Has she just not really seen the move? It just isn't coming to mind, or is there some potential drawback that is making her refrain from it?
Yeah, I think her mind was going in a different direction. She wants to go for g5, but I don't like this because it allows bishop f3 stuff, and then that does help black potentially solve the pin or bishop c6.
Okay, so Teddy loves putting that bishop from b7 to c6. He's done.
She could bail out with bishop c6, bishop f6.
Right.
This is maybe not just a bailout because the rook on c6, the endgame is still unpleasant for black, but it should be very drawish. I think she should play that.
Though. Yeah, it's a good spot because the knight on d7 is actually just pinned still, even after all this stuff has happened. But okay, so this is indeed occurring.
There we go.
So Danya, spotting those tactics there.
Yeah, at first I thought it's a draw, but that rook on c6 is also pegged to c6 because that b6 pawn is gonna come back to haunt black at some point.
Can black try to make use of the fact that his king is more active with some kind of h5, king g5, king h4? I know it's a long story, but I need some sort of activity, otherwise I can't move anything.
Well, I think h5, white will play king d2, and I don't see your counterplay really going anywhere. King g5, king e3, king g4, I mean, white can play f4, and and you're tied to the H pawn anyway. So I don't really. I mean, maybe it's a bit annoying with the king on H3, but it's not very terrifying counterplay.
I mean, we always talk about the threat being stronger than the execution, but I'm with you that it doesn't actually look that scary. At some point, Black will need to move this rook, right? You can't just leave your rook on C6 so passively, or maybe you can, and that's just the way to hold. But something about this looks, iffy if the rook stays here.
I think the idea is that you get your king to H3, you play H4. White will respond to that with rook H7 to tie the king to H4, and then you'll play rook D6 and get counterplay with rook D1. So it probably becomes concrete. If White could get her king to E5 in time, then Black would be completely paralyzed.
Right. And we actually, both players, just about 20 seconds. Now Teddy is dipped below that time, and king F4 played.
Rook D6 here. Okay, so rook C8. He's trying to get it through F8.
And that way, if king G5, there's rook G8 check. Actually, rook C8 was a good move. And check. Oh, so rook D6 too?
Oh,
so now
what a move.
Oh, now it's just winning for Teddy.
What a move there.
Rook G2.
Yeah, the king G5 was a blunder. I mean, rook F2 and rook G2 just picks up all the pawns now.
Yeah, so rook F2 check.
Teddy's overthinking it right now. And once again,
okay, so
this
defending everything this way
works. But I mean, it doesn't really. I don't know if you want to take on H2 because your king will be shouldered and White will start picking off the pawns.
Wow.
Okay, rook E2.
Yep. King G5, rook G2.
Rook G2 check.
Rook G2 wins on the spot. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he just wasn't seeing rook G2 at all, this idea, for some reason.
Still probably winning though, right? I mean,
it should.
But
well,
not that easy anymore. Rook B8.
Now it's winning. Yeah, rook B8, E4, and the pawn just runs very quickly.
Wait, what about rook H3? Rook H2. Rook H2 is king G2.
1 second.
Oh my gosh, king G2 and E3. Oh, what?
Oh, rook E3, king F2.
King F2.
Don't blunder the rook.
Who's better? I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Rook H2.
Oh my God.
No, Danya, you keep prophesizing things like this.
I can't believe it.
Oh my!
I disconnected my headphones.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so sad.
It is.
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
Can we just get Danya away from this event?
I was so flustered. My headphones got disconnected.
Fabi, is somebody who plays and is commented on much more than does commentary. When you see time scrambles like that, is that like, do you have different reactions? Do you feel differently now that you're talking about it rather than making the moves yourself?
Yeah, I feel like from when you see it from the side, everything seems much easier. But then when you're playing, somehow the board just looks different.
Right.
It's always much harder when you're playing. So that's why I try not to be too critical of players, because when you're down to 2 seconds, somehow you just see the board differently under the pressure of time trouble and everything else than if you're looking at the board from the side.
I completely agree, and I always say that it's just so much easier to commentate because I can sacrifice people's pieces and then just take the moves back, because if they don't work, we're all thinking of the ideas, but it's about making those ideas work. That's really essential here. So Teddy just blunders his rook with 1 second on the clock. It happens. This whole match has kind of been dictated by his time trouble, more or less, and Alina still playing very resourcefully, because she could have just lost that game any moment. She kept on going. She kept Teddy in time pressure. And now that we look at this game, Danya and Fabi, this position for White, we got the white side of the King's Indian. Black looks safe and sound for now, but whose attack is going to rage on first?
Yeah, I think this is a complete positional disaster for Black. I mean, knight b5 was a good move, and I would probably play bishop f8 with Black, just because bishop f8 at least allows you to hold things together a bit. I still think like queen b4 or something things will fall apart for Black eventually. I mean, if you play bishop takes b5, then you just end up with a really sad. Yeah, rook c2 and rook c1 is also good. But I think queen b4 at some moment was tempting.
I think queen b4 just wasn't spotted by Teddy, because queen b4 is
even now,
very natural.
Maybe.
Well, it only worked with the queen on e7, because after knight a6 we had queen d6 and the b6 knight hangs in the end. But with the queen on e8, then knight a6 kind of might pick up the knight on b5. But anyway, it's already in the path. Now it's very strong. This is like tremendous.
And knight a8 seems
knight
forced.
a8.
Then knight b5, and you force Black to take, and you take with the bishop, as Fabi was saying before. And yeah, this is just
But once you give up that light skirt bishop, it's just...
Yeah. I would just go for the a4 pawn. Bishop b5 is... I mean, I don't think knight a6 works because just knight c7, knight e8, and there's a check on f6 in the end.
Right.
And now I would just play bishop takes, like queen e7 or queen d8 will be played, and just bishop a4 is simple. You don't really have to... I mean, bishop c5 might also be very strong, but bishop a4 I think is an even easier way to do it.
Mm-hmm. I love it when you just start, making with the bishop takes a4. My mind is taking me for some kind of, take on c5 or just something more dynamic. You're like, yeah, go up a pawn, convert this easily.
My worry is that if things like you take on c5, maybe one day your pawns on the king side start hanging in endgame with obstacle or bishop. So I'd rather keep my dark square bishop just for that reason. But bishop c5, I'm sure, is also a good move. And what he did as well, he's really trying to get the maximum out of it, keep the two bishops and take the pawn.
And I liked what you said there about the h4, g5 type pawns, where if you let this bishop escape from f8, in the long run in some sort of end game, you have to watch out for a bishop getting behind those kingside pawns. So knight b6 by Alina. Now just knight takes c5.
DC and maybe queen d6. I mean, barely holding things together, but you can't take on a4 there.
Yeah, you probably should play like bishop e2 there, and then turn your attention maybe to the c5 pawn. Although it is quite, or bishop f1 is sometimes an idea to play bishop h3 and kick the rook.
Oh,
a very nice idea.
Wow, that's quite wise. In fact, instead of knight to d3, perhaps bishop f1, bishop h3 was an alternative there. But it's it's funny. I'm so focused on the a4 pawn now because you mentioned it that I kind of forgot that you could flip that bishop right around and take over the c file. That might even be more important.
I think that he might be considering bishop c5, dc5, queen a5, and then after queen d6 you have knight takes e5 potentially.
Yep.
Or he played knight c5, so never mind.
Yeah, but your idea, of course, just to take with the bishop there to get after the e5 pawn right away made sense. And now queen a5 is queen d6 feels like
it seems basically forced.
And now bishop f1 is what I would play most likely.
I was thinking bishop c6 as well, but it probably doesn't work after you just take on c6 the pawn and take on d5. So
it's probably still very good, but I don't know if it's the most you can get out of it. Because black will play c4 in the end, and then you don't get rook c4 and light squares.
I think playing it slowly, a3. I mean, I guess there's no hurry, but again, 30 seconds. Maybe Alina preparing f6.
But going after the king side.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, but desperate situations call for desperate measures.
So is Teddy trying to play queen g3 and f4, just switch his attention to the center of the board?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think his idea is to play queen f2 or queen g3 and f4, and that looks very strong. I am wondering about c4 here. I mean, just because black has to do something, it really does leave the knight on b6 hanging, so it probably doesn't work after queen a5, but I was curious for a second about it. But yeah, c4, queen a5 just picks up the queen side, so that's no good.
Yeah, but maybe there's even rook c5 though as a response, right? Just like try to sacrifice some material, get some activity. But Teddy goes queen to f2 after the pawn out f4, as you were saying.
Yeah, f4 is just crushing. I mean, bishop d6, and then I would just play f5.
You don't even want the material like f takes e5, bishop e5, bishop takes c5. Looks
that's more stuff to calculate, and he does it.
f5 is more sadistic. I mean, you can win that without even calculating the variations. But this is also crushing.
Yeah.
Bobby, nobody knew you were such a bully. You're such a nice guy. Everyone hears your interviews, really giving instructive points, and then all of a sudden you're saying, I want to just clamp down and give you no chance.
Nobody will think of you in the same way ever again.
Oh, yeah. Over the board, I love to be sadistic. I mean, that's a great pleasure. But yeah, okay, this was a great game. I mean, he played excellently, I think. And barring a massive blunder, he's just up a piece. So this is over.
Barring a massive blunder, which just happened, Queen E4 there.
Oh my God.
That was a massive blunder.
The moment you finised that sentence, Bishop D4.
I jinxed him, but it didn't matter. And now he's
Queen. I just showed that really quickly that the bishop was hanging.
Oh my goodness.
And instead he gets away with it. But look at you two with the commentator curses. It didn't happen, so I guess it's not a curse in this one. But as long as he doesn't blunder anything, and as soon as he finished that sentence, blunder is a bishop that wasn't taken.
That was a classic commentator.
I think Teddy realized he did that, given his gesticulations.
Oof. So it's still a 4-point match. I mean, it was 5 for a second there after Alina won the opening game of the 3-minute. And I mean, Fabi, you played in matches where you've both been ahead and behind. I mean, just how do you kind of alter your mindset where you get one victory, so you should feel a little bit more confident, but then you look at the match score and you realize you're still down 4 points. Like, do you play it game by game and just try to seize little chances here and there, or do you just go all in at a certain point?
Well, I've had trouble keeping my emotions kind of in check when I played a number of these online matches. I played one against Levon, which was, let's say I have some PTSD after that one.
Yeah, that was a little one-sided.
I mean, it's just that things went kind of badly from the start, and I got completely tilted. I wasn't playing chess anymore. I was just playing with my emotions. And the final score was like a complete landslide for him. Sometimes I manage to keep my cool, but it is difficult. I mean, being behind in a match, losing a number of games in a row is really emotionally difficult to handle. But it looks like Teddy is quite good at that, at forgetting about the previous games, and I think just something has to click for him, and things might start to go his way.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. And I just have to say, Fabi, I'm looking at the chat right now, and you're getting a ton of love, including from Fire261 saying, Robert, please let Fabi know that we love him. So you are loved.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, Valentine's Day, I guess, came early. I don't mean, every day is Valentine's Day when you're beloved.
Valentine's Day came very late.
I'm thinking ahead. This is half.
You're already in 2021.
Yeah, I'm just thinking ahead here, like a true chess player is supposed to. But we see this game here. Alina plays h3. We have this sort of pawn structure. It's not quite hanging pawns because it's still pawn on b7, but c5, d5 situation. At what point is Black have to fear d2 to d4, threatening to give him an isolated pawn, or is Alina refraining from that for some reason?
I don't think he has to fear it at all. I mean, it's clear that Black got a good opening, but I don't understand why Teddy's taking so much time on the first 9 moves when everything went well for him. I mean, knight g5 now is kind of asking to be played, but I do wonder about some extreme ideas. Okay, well, first of all, queen f6 is very tempting, because you can't take on c5, and that opens up all sorts of queen g6, bishop h3 ideas. So I would probably play queen f6 here.
Yeah, the time is crazy. 10 moves in, and he's barely over a minute.
But c takes d4, knight d4. He's going to go bishop d7. He's going to start playing.
Bishop h? Nah, that's too.
No, but
definitely premature.
You have to play queen g5 here. I think just automatically play queen g5.
Well, I guess that didn't happen. And queen g5 now runs into f4, which would fork your queen on g5, your knight on e5, so that's not good.
But you still have queen h6 there, so you can't really take on e5 so easily. So it's not the end of the world to play queen g5.
Okay, but Teddy's not really the type of guy who's gonna think of a sacrifice.
Allow f4.
Yeah, the time management's been a big struggle for him, and maybe part of it's playing on a work day, because Teddy Coleman is not a chess professional. He works as a software engineer for a startup, and I know for a fact that he took his morning off into the afternoon, and he'll have to work after this. So all of his coworkers, if you're watching this, I apologize if something goes wrong with your company. Don't blame me. Don't blame Teddy. But maybe just the weeks off didn't favor him. But we have to give Alina credit, right? She has been really solid throughout this match. She's gotten some positions we haven't been a huge fan of, but even in those, she seems to be playing more quickly and more confidently, and just kind of outplaying Teddy along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Just complete silence from you two. I love it. Thank you.
Well, no, it was such a wise statement that such a wise statement shouldn't be followed by any further commentary.
I was gonna say, I think this allows knight e5. I don't like his last move too much. But I was gonna say, I think that at some point he was getting outplayed, but the position started to look okay for him again. But I thought queen d6 queen d6 allows bishop e5 too. So maybe
I had sort of a more general question, Bobby. In your experience, sort of when things aren't going well, is it the case that you're sort of subconsciously avoiding calculation? Is that the first thing that you kind of stop believing in when you're sort of losing game after game?
I think that sometimes if you stop believing in your calculations, or if you're not confident in your calculations, that leads to a lot of double checking, which is sometimes okay in classical chess, but in Blitz, it's really a disaster. And this might be what's happening to Teddy. It explains why he's, down a minute on the clock, why he's getting into constant time trouble if he's constantly double checking his calculations.
Yeah. And he's missing tactics because after 95, he should have just bishop takes e5 with queen g6 to follow. So
now it's just complete turn of events. No more, not even a sliver of attacking possibilities for black.
Yeah.
h6.
But now queen b6
queen
wins.
b6.
Yeah.
Then I have to move my knight, but it's not looking
knife.
good. It's not looking good.
Like queen b6, knight e8. Let's say you move your knight, I don't know, somewhere. There's also bishop g4 to consider.
Bishop b7 being prepared by Alina. Sneaky. Bishop b7 just might win. Or there's queen b1 ideas to watch out for.
There was take and king h7. I know, then bishop takes f6. But there was queen b1 things too, yeah.
Queen d1, yeah. But Alina decides to play simpler.
Yeah, because right now she can even just take on c8, and she can take on f6, but you can just play g3, right?
She could technically, yeah.
What, Fabi?
She can take on f6 because queen c1, bishop d1 still wins the pawn on d5.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And here,
this is also very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is no fun for black. You're down time, you're down the position. Just queen takes d5, knight d2. So that was like.
And queen d8 picks off the bishop.
Ooh.
Yeah. Wow.
Man, this is hard to watch. This is tough.
Yeah, it's becoming one-sided. I mean, he's avoiding all the complications and, not seizing the initiative.
Although I like this position. You get the two bishops, you develop. Any complaints from you, Fabi, about this opening?
No. I think that this was... Am I allowed to say non-IM games? Is that...
Yeah,
we'll make an exception.
I think that this was played between Vichy and Magnus. I think, Magnus was white against Vichy, and I think it was in Norway Chess, and it was an Armageddon game. Or maybe it just looked very similar. But yeah, black has a fine position. I mean, if white could keep the bishop, then white would be better, but you can't really keep the bishop, g5, knight e4 stuff. Okay, she elects to castle, which seems a bit questionable to me. Maybe knight e5 and bishop d3 now is a bit better for white.
Yeah, and that way, if g5 does eventually come, you wanted to play knight e4 so that you can get the bishop pair off the board, but bishop d3 played. So, just the two bishops, right? There's some open space to work with. There are no weaknesses in white's position, so I think we like the start of this game for Teddy slightly better.
That's been the theme.
How do you work this into something that looks good, Fabi, into making more pressure on your opponent?
Well, I think the pressure is now on black because white's moves are simple. I'll castle, I'll play b4, c5 potentially. I'll just start advancing my pawns, and okay, castling queenside really looks bizarre to me. I don't know why not castle short. I mean, you don't have to attack on the kingside nest. I mean, it might not be bad, but you don't. It wasn't really called for.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you, do you castle queenside or kingside? But you look at the match score, you're down by 5 games. I mean, I think mixing it up a little bit more does make sense, although at the same time, that can create chances for your opponent.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to overcompensate. He realizes he's missed the tactical opportunity, so now he's stepping on the gas. I mean, this still looks like nice, but
rook d5 is very strong.
Yeah,
forces knight d7, and then you might even have queen d3 stuff.
Ooh. And
okay.
I was highlighting g4. When you were saying rook d5, I absolutely knew that he was going to play g4.
Maybe e4, but I don't know.
e4, then rook d5 still.
And I thought maybe knight d3 try to at least. Yeah, but that's still terrible. I mean, you can even just take.
No, I would play c6 if I were her, because bishop f5, queen e8 doesn't really. I shouldn't terrify black, I think.
What about rook d8 there?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe, yeah, that would win a queen, and then you win the e5 pawn and man, so that would have been good.
Yeah, I won't show it, so I'll just
wins the pawn for nothing now. Not even knight d7 is an idea.
Yes, rook d5, and it's a blind spot for both players right now.
Yeah, he's just hell bent on attacking with his pawns.
Well, now actually black is countering, right? This pawn on f3. If you ever play e4, then your bishop on c2 doesn't look very good. So maybe you throw in bishop f5 and then play e4.
Then you are sacking a bishop. It might be a very good sack, but it is a sack, right? Because g6.
Bobby, didn't we talk about this? Not my pieces. Totally happy to sack this.
I don't like what he's doing. It looks very passive. Now rook d8, black gets counterplay on the d3 square with either e4 or some doubling rook, something on d3.
Yep.
It seems like he's completely inside of his own head right now.
So bishop f5. Play bishop f5 and figure out the consequences later. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
black is probably better because knight d3 is coming. Bishop
How about
c7.
c7? Can I play bishop c7 to steal your pawns?
Just knight d3.
Teddy's totally going to do that.
You know, I'm just trying to steal something from my problem.
But also rook d7, maybe. Oh, wow, he did.
Hey, Daniel, what was that?
No, I wasn't being sarcastic. I'm never sarcastic. I actually meant he's going to do it.
But knight d3 and rook d7 is devastating because knight d3, king b1, rook d7. The bishop moves. I can play ef3, and you can't take the knight because of rook d3, bishop b4.
Yep, it's bad. It's really bad. I know that. How bishop b6 here, though?
Or grab another pawn, bishop a5, or queen a5.
Well, I'll take on a5 next, but I don't know. For some reason, I want to put my bishop there. But queen takes a5 is actually...
Queen a5 allows queen c4, though. That was probably not a good suggestion.
Okay, you see what he just did? It's not good, but you see what he did?
But knight a4, I don't understand. Because now white can take and put the bishop on d4. It looks like it turns around in one move with knight a4.
I think she's hoping you will blunder the bishop on b6.
Oh.
Yeah, now white's fine. Bishop d4, and it's completely okay.
And actually, if you play f6 to protect g7, then f4 comes in and g5 to follow, and it's white's attack that comes first.
Rook c8 may be potential idea because you can't go c5. That a2 pawn hangs.
Is he going to take on g7 now?
But the endgame is probably good for black. Maybe g5, hg, h6. I mean, just go for some sort of speculative attack.
Yes!
Wow.
Yes, Bobby.
The real Teddy Coleman was for...
So the question is, what do you do after black takes and takes on h6? And I thought rook f3 and rook f6, but then I'm not sure it works after bishop c6.
And the rook h1.
Rook f6, take on f6 and take on h1. I'm not sure that actually works out for white.
Yeah, it probably doesn't, but it looks fun. So I hope we see it.
It looks like a mess. Okay,
so b3, maybe she wants b5, but is that too slow?
Looks too slow.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it doesn't threaten anything, because BC, I'll just take the bishop, right?
Right, exactly. Well, now she wants to take on c4. But it's all one-move threats.
And now g7's hanging.
Rook c4.
But Teddy must be completely winning now.
Yes.
Wait, is rook c4 that bad? Because I want to go rook c2 in the end. And if you take on c2 twice, I've got queen a2.
Oh.
Well, we're about to see.
Actually,
queen a3, I guess, just might win.
Queen a3, keeping a2.
Queen a3 is good, yeah. It's necessary, I think.
Oh.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
Oh no. Oh. And was that missed by Teddy? Because you don't allow that move to happen and then spend another 3 seconds thinking about it.
No, I think he missed queen a3 entirely and thought this was necessary.
Gotcha.
And now, I mean, at the very least, black's got perpetual.
So who's better here?
I think practically speaking, black, just because it's so easy to play black and so difficult to play white with no time.
Yeah, I would let g takes h6 there.
Oh, I would be scared to lose a rook here.
Yeah, rook f3 is very brave.
King e4?
So is this.
Oh my gosh. King g3. King g3. The king's safe.
Good move.
But f6 will also help the... Well, rook f1.
Now, h6. Just go for the attack.
I would have played rook f... Oh, he hung his rook. Oh my god.
It's all your fault, Fabby.
I didn't mean on that move.
I know.
Oh,
Teddy heard you, but it was...
Can these guys hear us or what?
Oh man. And we're not laughing at the players. We're laughing just because like we're saying watch out and these things happen. As Bobby said earlier, in such a bullet situation where you have no time to calculate, you just overlook that a rook is hanging. It's happened to all of us many, many times. And it's just has been Alina's match from start to finish.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, it has. It has definitely been pouring for Teddy. So we have an exchange Slav that's turning like a Trumpovsky type of position. And how much time is left? 14 and a half minutes approximately in this 3-minute portion. So it's down 6. And the problem is that 1 minute doesn't really get better for his chances because Alina just destroyed Eric Rosen in the 1 minute section. So can't even rely on the hope of a comeback in that time segment. So, I mean, what do you do here? I know we say you got to stop the bleeding, you got to do this, you got to do that, but the time for platitudes is over. Like, is it just Alina's match? Somebody help me out.
I think you try to get into bullet with -4 and hope for the randomness of 1 minute going in your favor. I mean, 6 points behind is really a mountain to climb, but I think he needs to take his chances in bullet. I mean, he's not going to make up too much of the gap in the 3-minute segment anymore. I would just try to limit the damage, maybe try to get +1, +2 in the remaining games, and hope that anything can happen in bullet.
Yeah, but with his time management thus far, it has not really been inspiring for his bullet chances because he's always down on the clock. And to Alina's credit, I do think she's the strongest player in the field. Right? She's almost a grandmaster. She's got 2 norms. Her rating is just about 2,500. So she is the best player in the field. But this is an online format. It's trickier when you play Blitz and Bullet. So things can still happen. But so far, this match has been just entirely Alina.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to win. I mean, this is basically must-win territory. I think we've seen like 3-4 point swings before over the course of speed chess championships. I mean, there was an old Duda Grishuk match, I think. Oh, I referenced GMs again. I think I'm going to get booted from the show now. But that's not entirely unprecedented. But 6 points is way too. Whoa.
Yeah,
Jeez.
this was a very good move. Because if Black had 97, he would be completely consolidated. Now take knight f5. You kind of have to play bishop f5, and h6, but the problem is you also lose the d5 pawn. So white gets 3 pawns and a rook for the 2 pieces.
That's no fun.
But he has to take on d5, otherwise you just resign. I mean,
move first, think later.
I wouldn't think in this position because what are you going to do? Queen g7 and play a completely dead position.
Okay, so is there any other move besides? No, bishop h5.
h6.
H6.
But knight h6, king g7, it almost worked out, but then knight g4, and there's nowhere for the queen to go, and there's mate on h7. Besides that, I think it would actually work out for black. Mm-hmm. If it weren't for that knight g4 move.
So that means you have one choice and one choice only. Bishop takes f5, and
take h6.
That's just such a miserable position.
Brilliant tactic by Alina, though.
That's incredible.
That was really nice vision here.
H6 forced.
Well, queen g7 you can also.
Or yeah, I mean it's the same in spirit though.
The good thing about black's position is that you can move relatively quickly, since white is the one who has to do something.
Right.
I mean, you can't really do anything with black. You can just make moves and force white to, at some point, advance the pawns.
Now rook c5 maybe.
And it's sort of funny that trying to figure out which diagonal your bishop belonged on. This bishop on b8 is a dark square. All of white's pawns are in dark squares, so your bishop is completely useless.
Bishop was great on d6. I mean, allowing rook c5, I think, hurt his chances.
Right, because now the rook is doing f5 or even h5 or something like that and use the light squares. But I think you are right that the onus of the position is on Alina, but you also...
Now queen b7 is just, it's a fourth pawn.
How about the ownership of the position?
Danya?
I'll stop.
I don't like.
No, I was going to say with bishop b8, he's going DJ backwards, but
dude,
I invented a better one.
You have to leave. You really got to go. I mean, it's just going to be me and Fabi from now on. It's fine.
I'll enjoy this beautiful, beautiful Charlotte day. I'm very happy to.
Oh gosh, Fabi, can you answer how I put up with his terrible puns?
I don't know. I think you're a saint, Robert.
Saint Hess.
Oh,
he just resigns. Wow.
Alina wins another. That was a really nice game by her. And the bleeding continues for Teddy Coleman as we're in the 3-minute portion. And just the blitz has been all Alina thus far. It's getting to that point where it's almost too little too late at this point.
Yeah.
Regardless.
7-point game. It's just crazy.
But wow, Fabiano called me a saint. I should be like, yay! Oh man, you made my day, Fabi. But in reality, I just like kind of shake my head. I'm like, wow, I don't know what to respond to this, but you know,
Well,
we
you've
ate
been
lunch.
sanctified before.
Fabi and I had the same routine at Isle of Man. He won the tournament, so you know, I feel it's like there's already something good going on, and I'm a good influence on him. That's what I'll say.
That's definitely true.
How do you think that the Isle of Man tea house is doing? Tea Junction.
I hope they're doing well. I hope they're still in business. We're giving a little shout out to like pretty much unknown, except to some people in one city. Tea shop.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mark was a great guy.
Yeah, Mark.
Oh.
What made that place? Was it the food or was it the things that happened there?
Not much happened there besides the food.
Yeah.
And the tea.
Yeah, and Fabi also continuously trying to use a card that didn't accept. So that was a fun routine.
It's a great starting. Wow. I think I'm gonna fly to the Isle of Man right now, actually.
Yeah, Donna clearly
that was a
feeling
great
left
time
out.
to go find the Isle of Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this position, I honestly wasn't looking at the game, but now I am. And whoa, okay, so Bishop C4 does not win a piece because Knight takes E4 and Bishop E6 at the end, holding on there.
Yeah, I think that he blundered the D5 pawn because Bishop takes B5 was. I understand Bishop A6 black would get the D3 square, but this is just bad for white. Knight B4 and Knight D3 is coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because A3 is still Knight B4, so you have to castle Knight B4, Queen D1, and just yeah. I mean, it's probably completely dead lost for white already, but there's not much you can do anymore. There's Bishop A3, but I have a feeling that that will probably lose to something like Bishop D7. So.
Is this why, you know, you're the number 2 chess player in the world? You see moves like Bishop A3 when I would never have even conceptualized that.
At this point, I think the only way to hold this position is to be ready to play some really ugly moves. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
You have to swallow your pride here.
Well, you know, Bill Withers sang that, right? Please swallow your pride. We all have faith. We all have sorrow. So anyway, gonna go back to the chess. And
pulling out the best of Bill Withers. Would I be? I have no idea who that is, actually.
Whoa.
I knew that would be your reaction, but I also prioritize honesty.
Okay, I don't ask the chat for much. And in fact, I never really talk to chat for anything. But chat, Danya doesn't know Bill Withers. React, please.
Okay, who is Bill? You might as well tell me who it is before sending me.
Do you know that song "Ain't No Sunshine"?
Yeah, I do know that song.
There you go.
Oh, that's Bill Withers. He's a singer. Okay.
Oh,
Lean on Me.
Gosh. Yeah.
I know the song "Lean On." That's a great song.
Oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed.
Major Lazer, I think.
See, Bobby, this is why we have, you know, inside jokes and stories, and Donnie's not invited, right?
Exactly.
Well, TFTI.
Meanwhile, I think that Teddy made the best of his position. I think it might have even been better like 2 moves before this, but he's not losing. He's not even down material. He still has a bad position, but it's, I think, the best he could hope for after the opening.
And is he going to go some kind of? Never mind. It's like King H2, Rook G1, G4. But then, I mean, Black is honestly first to the king side of G5 anymore.
I would play B4 here. I don't know if it's a good move, but CB4 allows Rook C7 with some play. Otherwise, like C4 allows some squares for the knights. You know.
Well, it looks like White's position is just going to wither and die. Withers and dies.
Okay, that is way too soon of a joke to make.
Well, I have to now be in the I know who Bill Withers is cool club. So
yeah, but Bill Withers just died.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that either.
So
I'm really on a roll today. I think I need to go back to. I should have gone to a different school.
Okay, so ED4, Bishop takes B3, Bishop C4 check. At least keeps the game going, right?
Well, you can play Bishop C4 immediately as well. It doesn't seem. I don't know if you should be too worried about opponent D3 because at least you're not losing immediately after that.
Right, Bishop E6, Rook C4, and just blockade the light squares.
Try to hold on as long as you can, but with the time situation, it's. I mean, at least you should keep some time on your clock in a bad position so you can find the swindle when it arises. But when you're down to no time at all, then you can't even really swindle your opponent.
Right. Swindle with knight c7 is one of the ideas, just forking the queen, and that's why the queen went to b6 to avoid that. And how about g4?
Yeah, totally a Teddy move.
But do you really want to open your king at a time like this?
Well, when I'm down 7 points in the match, I must.
And losing the 8th game, g3. I feel like he's,
No, I like this because he's not ruining his position.
And now after h6, g4 is probably stronger because black could have played g6 in some lines, and now it feels like the light squares on the king side can be rook d1.
All right, play queen g2 and try to get g4. I mean, anyway, the queen belongs on g2, so.
Right.
Queen g2 also introduced the threat of rook e4, which was, I don't know where the queen's going now.
Wow, that's nice. And that a8, hitting on that a8 rook.
So now rook c8, I guess, should be played.
Well, you technically, maybe you don't even have to defend c5. Yeah, you do. I thought bishop b2, but there's queen c4. Well, she doesn't, but
rook c5.
Rook takes c5.
Queen b4, I guess she wants.
But f5 is also hanging.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Like
okay, rook f5.
Yeah, rook f5.
Rook e3 hangs d2, so.
Oh, take on d2.
Wow.
And then rook c8 after.
Whoa! What is that? Queen b6, queen f2 is. Oh no! What am I doing? There's a rook on f6.
Now maybe queen c6.
Don't lose on time.
Oh gosh! Well,
he's got 1.4 sec. Queen b6 should be made, right? And then rook e1.
No, king h1.
Rook e1.
Ah, you just made me like that.
There's nothing guarding that square, correct?
Why
queen b6.
Oh my goodness.
The time. This was already winning for Alina. She played a nice game there. But he had some chances when Alina went kind of forward. Instead of just keeping her position safe and sound, she went forward, and Teddy didn't have the time to calculate all these complications. I mean, Fabiano, what you said earlier is proving to be absolutely correct. That in many ways. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's sort of what I meant, because even if you have a bad position, usually in Blitz, it does turn into a mess at some point. I think not just at any level, even at the top level, an advantage is rarely carried out to a win without any hiccups along the way, but you need to have the time when that comes, because it's usually only for like a move or two that you get the chance, and you won't be able to seize the chance if you only have 10 seconds or 5 seconds on your clock.
Right. And Alina, she even in time trouble, she hasn't felt she's been in too much time trouble herself for the most part. She's always been above 10 seconds when Teddy's down to the remaining seconds. So the clock has really dictated the match, and I mean,
she's just not made virtually any blunders in this match. Yeah. She doesn't beat herself at any game at all, which is obvious statement, but also very important quality in these matches, it seems.
I asked for questions for you, Fabi, in the chat, and all of them are about your hair and about when did you decide to go for the young Yasser look? And
well, I approve of it.
Okay, Fabi, who would you want a chess documentary about?
Who would I want it to be about?
Well, besides you, if you're going to say you.
No, I wouldn't want it to be about me for sure.
Yep.
And I really wouldn't watch it on anyone else. Okay. So my answer is no one.
Okay, I like that answer. So well played. And another question by DM Captain Obvious: who is the best non-champion chess player of all time? And you're not allowed to pick yourself.
Well, that's a good question.
The best non-world champion?
Yes.
I think I would probably go with Korchnoi.
Okay.
I mean, he's played 2 world championship matches. So I think that at some point he was legitimately very, very close in strength to Karpov, and like solidly number 2 in the world. I was also thinking maybe Karas, but okay, I would say probably in my mind Korchnoi would win out on that one. I can't really name modern players. I mean, Levon is also someone who comes to mind, but since he might have a world championship shot in the future, I don't really think you can name players who are still, actively playing.
Well, let me ask you something, because you said Korchnoi being number 2 in the world. Is there any sort of asterisk? Because Bobby Fischer obviously was not playing, but he kind of gave up his world championship title. Like, not saying that Korchnoi is a great answer. He was phenomenal. But I always wonder how top players perceive that era when, Bobby Fischer was sort of, the unstoppable force, and then he stopped himself by quitting chess. So I'm just curious, if that changes the conversation at all, or if Korchnoi still, he's still a great answer.
Well, I think it would have tarnished Karpov's legacy if he wasn't so dominant for, over a decade after that.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't, officially win his, that he didn't win his first world championship title in a real match. That would, you would say his legacy isn't as great, but then he did also dominate the chess world for over a decade. So I don't think you can say that. Yeah. And I don't really see how you can include Bobby Fischer in the picture when he wasn't playing for a very long time. When he quit in 72 after the match, I don't really see how it bears any relevance in 78 or 82.
I think that's a very fair conclusion to make. And Korchnoi was amazing. You had the honor of losing to him relatively late in his career, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true, yeah.
Sorry to bring up bad memories, but
no, he played a great game. Mm-hmm. I actually had the pleasure of playing him on more than one occasion. The first time was in 2008. One time he ran out of time. It was a tournament where the games had no increment, and he was extremely angry. His position was good in the final position. He was close to winning. He ran out of time, and he had some words for me at the end. But okay, Victor was sort of known for speaking his mind.
Well, there's that famous video of him losing, I think, to Sofia Polgar, and he gets flagged, and he has some words. This is the first and the last time in my life. The first and the very last time in your life. I used to think everybody knows that video, but apparently not.
I don't think I've seen it, actually.
Me neither.
You should watch it. Yeah, not obviously not to laugh. Korchnoi is a legend, but just to cement that idea that he was a bit of a firebrand. Can
we just take a moment to recognize that this random Victor Korchnoi video,
but not who Bill Withers is?
Yeah.
When you said, "Can we take a moment?" I thought you would say, "Can we take a moment to mourn Black's position here?" But
yeah, out of the corner of my eye, I was looking at this game, but it's becoming one of those matchups that's incredibly lopsided. And Alina's just proven to be the stronger player. And I've said it already throughout this match. She has 2 GM norms. She's nearly 2,500 rated. I always commend her performance at the 2018 Isle of Man tournament, where she drew Anish Giri and Vladimir Krumnik in the first 2 rounds. She beat Sam Sevian later in the event. She made a Grandmaster norm, and she crushed that tournament. So, she's an incredible player, and everything's going her way right now. In this game, she's already up 1 pawn. The A4 pawn is falling. But it's interesting to hear Fabi's thoughts on.
All right, I do have a trick, though. If white plays rook takes A4 here, you take rook A8. F3 would still work out for white there, but if you play rook C4, then knight D2, rook C2, rook A4, and the back rank checkmate.
Oh, you're so devious. I'll just show it because.
But okay, she also didn't go for it, didn't fall for it, of course. So.
I just wanted to show it because you're saying it, and the point is rook A4 behind rook A1, and the king is mated. And we have this position after F3 and snagging that second pawn. And F6 is
now another pawn. She's up 3 of them now.
But for once, she's now under 10 seconds, but now she is. And that doesn't happen very often. So, these kind of things, you can make mistakes in positions like this, but when Teddy is 1.2 seconds.
1.2, he's just pre-moving king. She should play bishop's rook C7 or something.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Take that.
You're
going to have to find another set of moves to pre-move.
And
okay, rook A8.
Yeah.
I think you have to give her credit for keeping control when she's low on time too, because it's easy to, even when you're completely winning, to lose control of the position.
Yep. Well, Yeah, I mean, you're right that she didn't give him any chances. He was pre-moving. She was keeping everything under control, playing solidly. Fabi, I mean, we're going to let you go, I guess, unless you for some reason want to stay with us. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but any final thoughts just about life in general?
I'll stay for the bullet. I mean,
yes, that's all I want in life is to have Fabiana Caruana go full force in a bullet portion. So we will return after this short break, and when we return, we'll get to the bullet, and Fabiana Caruana will still be with us. And we return here with some daily question responses. And the first one is from Francisco Jose saying, Paul Morphy, the way he conquered the chess world and the way his career ended is just fascinating. That's a pretty good answer. The second one here we have by Allah A with lots of numbers at the end that I'm not going to read. Judith Polgar with a hint of the life of the Polgar family. Also fascinating. That has been pretty well documented by many authors and things like that, but a full documentary would be great. And finally, by SI Man Chess, Levon Aronian any day. Big fan of Levon. So some good answers here. Fabi and Danya. I mean, Morphy, Judith, Levon. I mean, Fabi, you said Levon yourself, but you also said that, hey, he could still play for the World Championship. But in general, what chess players you want documented about? Fabi, you already said nobody. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Danya?
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting category. I mean, there's this guy, Gennady Sosonko, who is a grandmaster and an emigre, of course, from the Soviet Union, moved to Holland in the 70s. And he writes a lot of memoirs about how Russian and Soviet chess players were. So I always find the chess culture of the Soviet Union in the 60s and 70s to be fascinating. And all those characters like Mikhail Tal was a fascinating character. And not only these people's chess, but also their personalities and the stories that come from when these players traveled internationally, because a select few of them were permitted to do so. All of that was fascinating. But the story that we have right now is the 25-minute bullet section, and they are off with another King's Indian.
They are indeed, and now we get into our best auctioneer impressions here. Knight to b6, once more, bishop b7, try and play c6, go for the queenside initiative. What do we think here? Right now, Alina well over her starting time, so she's comfortable in this position. Are you so comfortable with this, Fabi? You like Black's position?
Well, I think still White has a good position, but she isn't really going for c6, which I think helps White. But still White has a very good position, and Black is not really doing anything. Yeah, knight b5 to be followed up maybe with knight d3. Okay, she's just waiting for White to prove something here.
Playing incredibly fast, still over a minute.
Oh, knight takes c4?
Oh.
Okay.
Stop it, Robert.
I was looking at knight takes
c4. Knight c7.
Tempting. Knight c7 does win a pawn.
And following Fabiano's advice usually is the best thing to do. In this one case here, I will say that Danya saw a way to scoop up a pawn. So good on you, Danya.
I think I've secured my place in the candidates.
No comment. But here, b3. But that opens the A file.
Yeah, that was a bit odd.
Okay.
Basically, he wanted to play knight c3, but he should have done it the move before when the c4 pawn wasn't hanging.
Right. And knight c7 now. Just go. Okay. The bishop pin.
Get that knight around to d5.
Yeah. Play knight c7. Bring the knight to d5. I mean, White still looks good, but this outside h pawn here in certain endgames can be really annoying as a decoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Knight
This is
c7.
for Black.
Okay, that knight is never going to.
Yeah, you pointed this out earlier, Fabi, how in an endgame that pawn on g5, it's a strength in the middle game, but can become a serious liability, and it has.
And somehow Black's knight is getting to d4 before White's knight is getting d5. Like knight c7 was there for the taking in numerous moments, and here comes the knight to d4.
Yeah, bishop d1 is still holding it together. So
right.
Is there maybe knight b? No, none of that.
Oh, you want to get a rook d3? I see you.
Yeah, but there's always a way to defend the two pieces at the same time. Okay, so he has managed to finally get that knight to d5.
And for Black, what's going on here? So it's obviously even material still. The pawn on d5, a nice pawn chain here with the passed pawn. But Black has this outside passed pawn of her own. And I don't know, something... I kind of want to reroute my bishop from d1. I just don't know how to do it.
And the time situation is crazy.
Yeah, bishop
it's so
d4
lopsided.
Is strange. I don't know why it was necessary.
How do you stop rook e6?
Maybe you could just h4, h3 and bank on the pawn. I mean, of course, that's bad.
Oh, rook e6 now, and then d6.
But now d6 is very strong, and then f4 after bishop d8.
f4, f5.
Or just even f4, and why would you give that pawn?
Maybe d7, but no. Now bishop. Yep. Rook h5. Rook h5, rook d5.
No, bishop d5. Bishop d5, rook h8.
Oh, it's mate.
Bishop d5.
Oh my, you missed it.
Oh, it pains me. It pains me so.
So many chances left by the side of the road.
Yeah.
Still White has a huge advantage here.
Yeah. But don't take it. Okay.
You were so worried there.
I was worried he was going to take it.
This is still winning. Just rook d4 and then pick up the b7 pawn, or force black to play b6 and get it past c pawn.
Okay.
But bishop e5, I mean, he's going the most circuitous possible route to winning this game.
Rook d6.
There we go.
Rook
Take
d6.
it.
Just take.
Yeah, take on b7.
Yep. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
Just
take
king
on
d4,
d4,
king d5, etc.
And if king f3, king e6 check, and you pick up the
Nice.
bishop. So Teddy gets a win in the first bullet game. He's going to be down 8 points now, and with 21 minutes left, I mean, there's just not enough time for the comeback. But it will feel better if he can just score some victories at this point. But Alina, just such a dominant performer. We're getting this position again. Fabiano, I think we need to research this afterwards because this feels like it's a lesson, and I still am confused.
Yeah, I don't really know the theory, but clearly what White is doing is not really the way you're supposed to do it. Or at least it doesn't. Although now maybe Black has some tactical problems. I would play Queen c7 just to get out of.
Uh-oh.
At g4, I don't understand. What's wrong with knight e7, for example?
I don't know, but I see him move.
Maybe she wants queen g5 or some.
No,
Knight
b6. I don't really see the attack for White because the knight on g6 covers everything. I think fully.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Yeah.
And White can play f4, f5 after knight g6, I guess, but
Yeah.
some kind of queen g5 happening here. But
Queen g5, knight g6 doesn't seem so.
How about b3, bishop b? I mean, but that creates a weakness. Okay, yeah, knight on d4. It's
Yeah, now play f6. I would. Or
Ooh.
okay, this is no wait. No,
knight
knight
g7.
f6.
knight g7,
Knight
queen
g7.
g5. Oh my goodness.
oh, missed.
Knight c6
Still.
is so strange.
Knight g7.
But also knight
that's
f6, take queen h6, f5 gf, and the g file opens. I mean,
Oh man, that's devastating.
bishop takes c6 was very, very. I mean, so greedy to take the pawn instead of going. For
I mean, even after bishop c6, maybe the best to do is knight g7.
but now
maybe
queen
even here.
g5?
Oh wow.
Because after bishop c6, you had f6 after queen g5. Now you resign.
Yep, g6, queen f6, gh5 is going to rook take. I mean, every move.
Even gh, yeah, anything there.
Yeah, at this point, it's all over.
Wow.
Yep,
Just not his day.
and a resignation has indeed occurred. Well, I still feel like I need to study that opening. And this one here, all right, so knight f6, e4. That's what Teddy played earlier. Bobby, you must know something about this, right?
I have no idea. I did remember in that game. I think he played like bishop d3, bishop g4,
Yep.
took on e7 and d5, and there was knight takes e4. I think, if I didn't miss anything, and bishop e4, f5, and e4.
Right.
But not relevant to this game. But I just wanted to say that.
So
This is
white
very
is, white is up.
Yeah,
a
bishop
pawn.
b4 is a humongous threat. I mean, bishop b4, rook e4.
Queen takes d5, right? Oh, rook e4 is hanging for free, but queen d5 is also.
No, queen
Capture.
d5, bishop b4 wins a piece here.
No, I'm saying instead of rook e4, queen takes d5.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was good. That was very good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, here queen d2, black can play knight d7 or c6, any number of decent moves.
Maybe annoy white with queen e7.
That also. Although, I was just thinking for a moment about castle rook e2, rook fe1,
Ooh.
but it probably doesn't work. It's just kind of funny. Black has to play rook e1, and queen moves somewhere.
Right.
I'm not sure if white has enough there. Probably not.
Nah, not a believer. But I'm also not a believer in the clock situation for white or the position,
No,
really.
definitely. Neither am I. Rook. Oh, okay. We can't go rook e2, but just.
Wait, that's actually kind of a clever move. F4?
Yeah, f4,
Yeah.
rook e3, king f2 looks pretty. Why not f4?
F4.
Also, rook g4 maybe is better for black there. Okay, wow. Jesus.
Wasn't expecting that repetition, but hey,
Yeah.
that was fun. That was fun indeed. And
Rich game.
what next?
Wow. 9-point lead. It's always, we feel for Teddy, of course. It's hard to continue the match when you're down this much. I was going to say down this much, and you're going to lose, but he just wants to see if he can score a couple of consolation goals. And another interesting opening.
The Cambridge Springs once more.
I didn't really understand the last two moves because e5 was sort of asking for bishop f6 and d5.
Right.
And instead bishop h4 happened, which is a bit of a mystery. Now black has a good position, either queen, c7 or even queen a6 sort of comes to mind, but it's a bit
strange. What about
strange.
queen a4?
Queen a4 is pretty funny.
Hey!
You're very, very cool, Robert.
There you go.
Wow.
There's queen a4. Take that, both of you.
See, I'm pretty sure that Teddy can hear us. Like that explains a lot of moves, both the good and the bad ones.
I would consider knight d5. Yeah,
knight takes c3.
Case in point, but then queen c3 and rook a1. And Fabi, your idea from the last game on step.
Except not down a piece, which helps a lot.
True.
Yeah, bishop e6, black is solid. A little bit worse for black.
I was hung up the way. I said knight c5, but
me too. I thought it was a great move, but then I realized.
And now maybe knight c5 will come into play. Like queen d2 here, and then knight c5 is very tempting.
Oh god, and queen h6 there, and bishop e5. Teddy's gonna be very careful.
So no queen d2
c1 and queen h6 simply.
This is like black is really tactically risky.
I feel like Teddy's completely unconcerned, but after queen h6, he's gonna start getting worried.
Yeah, this is so scary for black.
Is it just lost? Because, probably practically speaking, it is.
Practically, I think it is completely dead.
f6, bishop g6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
wow.
Now bishop e5, f6, bishop c6 should be completely winning. Okay.
She wants to. Okay, that's a good. Knight c5.
Oh, black is back in it.
What about knight c5?
Trying to cut the queen off from f8. Did I just take you on c5?
This is actually like a triple piece sack. Knight c5.
Yeah, and then bishop e5, bishop g6.
But then rook e7, and then maybe it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if she, Sorry.
Wow. f6 played now with the queen on f8, and okay, so gaining a pawn.
But now bishop c6 wins the exchange.
Okay, that's not pleasant.
AB.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to say. That was well-handled tactical portion of the game by Lena.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. As commentators, it's hard to go on this. And for we're saying for Teddy, it's the match is already over. There's still a clock.
But really, the hardest burden is on us, the commentators. Obviously, it's all about the commentators.
Don't put yourself first, Anya.
Yeah, 10-point lead.
I don't know what to say. I think we have John Bartholomew and Greg Shahadi in the chat. They will be playing on Saturday. This Saturday, they'll play their semifinal. And the winner of that match will play IM Kashlinskaya for first place in this I Am Not GM Speeches Championship brought to you by Chess.com. And let me ask you, Fabi. We know the results of this match between Greg Shahadi and John Bartholomew. Who's the favorite and why?
Oh, they're reading this too? And now I feel kind of on the spot.
They're around.
I would probably say that John is the favorite, but I don't think that it will be. I think it'll be a very close match in any case.
Okay.
And Greg won the last match pretty convincingly, I think, against Carissa. I mean, it was close, but at the end he started to pull away. So we shouldn't underestimate him.
Okay, what a diplomatic answer. Love it when you give me the most controversial responses so I can react accordingly. But no, I would say that probably John would be the slight favorite, but Greg has proven himself to be quite mighty against Carissa Yip, for example, and in the first round against Anna Zatonsky. What's going on here? Black is
at some point, actually, Alina blundered the c7 pawn earlier in the game, and Teddy didn't take it.
But isn't Black down a pawn here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess
she took the a7 pawn.
Oh, and then she blundered the c pawn as well, but Teddy didn't take it. One pawn is enough, one pawn is enough.
Still, Black's position is. Well, actually, now can't you just take?
Yeah,
take on c8 and take on d4?
Teddy has an aversion to pawns in this game. He's no. I had one. That's enough.
Rook c5. Just take on c5 twice.
Take on c5. Oh.
Yeah, this is going all wrong for Teddy now.
Rook c3 and 94 maybe.
Yeah, 94 looks queen b7 first. I'm not sure what the move
94. I can play queen c8 because I have rook c7 in the end, and then you have knight d7. I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
You can take on d7 there.
No, but then the d pawn should.
Yeah.
Maybe
maybe there's king f1, but
yeah.
I mean, even knight b3 there. How bad is that?
I think white is the one trying to survive this now.
Yeah. Although the king is so close to that pawn that king f3, okay, or back.
Yeah, now king e5, king t4 comes so fast. Maybe f4.
Bringing the king through f3 is probably superior to this because now
knight d5 helping. Yeah, now blundering a5.
Wow.
Yeah, this isn't good. This isn't good. And
c1 and resigns.
Yeah.
Total devastation here again.
Man, I'm in pain right now. It's hard to watch this, honestly.
Yeah, he's just.
I think that once the match becomes pretty much unwinnable, I mean, you probably Teddy stopped really caring about the score.
Yeah.
Bishop c5 there?
Bishop c5 was a move, yeah.
Oh.
Just a move, yeah. Alternative. Knight f3.
Yeah, no, I think Fabi, you have a point though that when you already lost the match, I mean, who cares if it's by a million points or by a few? And people who maybe just tuning in, this is the first match they're watching. Like, Teddy has beaten two strong players to get here, so it's not like he's come here and just. It has been a one-sided match, that's for sure. But he is in the semifinals for a reason. He played very well in the first two matches, showed way more consistency in those in terms of the upside. Here he's consistently been in time trouble. He's been just kind of floundering a bit and struggling under the duress of said time trouble. So kudos to IM Kashlinskaya, who in every single match she's played, we've just been in awe of her performances, and this one is no exception. And there is a little bit at stake based on the prize money because it's every point you score determines part of the prize you get. But I think all things considered, the players care way more about the overall match than a few dollars here and there. In terms of when their mindset in playing these games.
May I make one correction, Robert?
What's up?
It's that when you say Kashlinskaya, the emphasis is on the first part. So it's Kashlinskaya, not Kashlinskaya. It was always been my dream to correct you, Robert.
Well, there you have it. Surprise, surprise. Don Naroditsky knows more, Russian than I do. Oh, he rubs it in my face.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, seriously. You didn't know who Bill Withers is.
I don't know how I've survived on this earth.
I'm so disappointed in you.
Well, I knew that from the first day we commentated together.
I thought you were making a joke that you put the emphasis on the cash, but you actually do, which is even cooler.
Well, I mean, the things I say are so wise that they contain within themselves many meanings and jokes.
Fabi, do you regret joining us yet?
No, not at all.
Wow.
I mean, you say yet like there's a lot of time remaining.
Yeah, as if the whole match was ahead, and we're gonna make 90.
Danya can make a mistake, and instead of insulting me, he can insult you, and then you regret it, right?
I'm ready for that too.
That
is bound to happen.
Oh,
but Teddy's doing great here. I mean, he's been doing great all game. This one looks completely winning for him. Doesn't really change the match in the slightest,
but 4 seconds.
Again, he's just taking so long on these decisions.
That H pawn is dangerous.
Now it's like all of a sudden White's much better. All of a sudden, like 2 moves later. Queen G6.
On the king on A6, you're very safe, at least. White's king is the one in danger. Queen G2 and
Rook J played.
This is safe. Now you'll just trace
the subtle line.
Oh no!
B4! Oh my gosh! Fabi, you jinxed it.
The one way it made it. The one time Teddy pre-moves a move.
And Teddy laughs, he's just like, everything that has gone wrong is going wrong.
The one pre-move he makes. And
I'm going back to that game because that was brilliant by Alina. And the reason why it's brilliant is Teddy had 2.7 seconds left. So she plays b4, hoping that he, is going to fall for b5 checkmate, and he doesn't have much time, and he takes on h6 and b5 is mate. So it was her last chance. She had a bad position, but that was a really brilliant Danya Naroditsky type of devious.
Yeah, I was gonna say she took that from my book of dirty bullet moves. I mean, I think Alireza Firouzja introduced that into the public eye. The whole concept of, you predict when your opponent pre-moves something and you do something as dirty as possible in that moment. But b4 is also just an objective chance. In these matches, you can't talk about someone being dirty. You have to go for the win in every game, and we've seen Alina's incredible gentlemanliness before when she, she's given draws, and she's one of the classiest players out there.
I don't even know what to say. Fabi, you mentioned Alireza Firouzja, and obviously everybody knows Alireza's prowess. Are there any other kind of juniors out there that may be lesser known that you see as like the potential future of chess?
No, I try not to think about it too much. I mean, I don't want to think about my future retirement at the hands of some 10-year-old kids who are going to be, playing world championship matches someday. Why would I want to think about that?
Just some players that you'll have fun competing against for the next bunch of years. Maybe a Nihal Sarin or a Jeffrey Zhang or.
No, that's true. I mean, it is also exciting to see the let's say the next crop of top players coming up, and I think the players you mentioned are already kind of established. Like Jeffrey is quite an established player, and I mean, not at all a new name. We've been seeing his progress for years now.
Yeah.
And Nihal Sarin as well, and of course, I mean, Firouzja is already legitimately a top chess player in the world who competes with with the best of the best. But I mean, I also don't really follow, let's say, the less well-known junior players who are coming up in the world.
Right.
So Alina just hung the rook. Yeah, she missed that.
She thought it was mate. Yeah. And Teddy took a piece that was offered to him, which is.
Yeah. No, I mean, Fabi, your point of view makes sense because you're focused on your career. So if you start putting too much attention on some of these younger players, and then it just changes your mindset. But I do think we have seen some really good talents rise recently. Alireza is the most prominent of those, but even someone like Jordan Van Forest, who is he even 20 yet? He's pretty young, but he had such a strong Vikings tournament where you won the Tata Masters. But Jordan, he drew you, and that he got a bad opening, and then he fought back. He drew Magnus from a superior position. He outscored his fellow Dutchman Nishkiri there. So players like that it's pretty exciting to see them thrive too, right?
Yeah, no, it's that's why I also like, for example, playing in Vikings A, because you have more of a mix of players. I mean, still very, very strong players, but some faces that you don't normally see in top events. And they usually perform very well. Like I remember when Arivan scored, I think, +1 and was winning against Magnus with Black playing the Scandinavian. I think it was probably like 2017. Yeah, that sounds right.
And he beat Karyakin with Black in a French.
He beat Karyakin in that French game, and he was legitimately proving himself in among the top players. And then you saw Firouzja was leading this year's Vikings event halfway through, and Jordan, yeah. So it is nice to see.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up then. You said you like playing in Vikings A because of the newer blood, fresh opponents that you don't face all the time. Are you kind of saying that you wish that you could play a kind of a different cast of characters? Or are you happy simply playing Magnus, Levon and Maxime, Hikaru, all these guys over and over again?
Well, my happiness is more based on my results than who I'm playing against. So
I thought your happiness is based on my results, but okay.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, when we were playing Isle of Man, I mean, every time we both did well, I was incredibly happy.
I'm sure the last time you played a tournament back in 2010, Robert, Bobby was following closely.
But no, I mean, if you're prioritizing yourself, but I mean, seriously, is it fun for you to play different players, or just playing the best every single time is your main focus?
No, it is fun to play different players. And yeah, I think we're seeing more of that recently too. More of a mix of players in different tournaments. I mean, especially now that all tournaments moved online, we're seeing it even more. But before that, like I played a number of new players, and for example, Isle of Man, I played players who I hadn't played before in classical chess in Vikings as well. Sorry, I'm just sort of getting like transfixed by this game because so much has happened.
Yeah, it really is. Rookie 1.
I was listening to you, but I was watching the game. Like, is Bishop F3 coming? Like right now?
Like
Queen F4. Oh my god.
Hi,
Teddy.
Oh, the rook is hanging. Is that the last game? No, there's one more.
No, there's one more. One last one.
Oh man.
I mean, Rookie 4 instead. Yeah, and then.
Man.
Yeah,
Bartholomew
would say. It's a great time too. Well, I was surprised, Robert, that you mentioned. Brace yourself. You mentioned Jordan Van Forest, but you didn't mention his superior brother, Maiden Van Forest.
What?
Your Dan Van Forest and then Maiden.
No, that was terrible. That was really, really awful. I'm done.
Well, it's better than the other pun I made him, which is that you're not seeing the Van Forest for the trees. But.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to go with what people do with putting a lot of names together. So like the Michael Jordan Van Forest Gump or something like that. But you had said went for like, you just threw me. I mean, I'm so upset with you.
Van Forest Gump.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's like those Jeopardy categories where you have to, like Robert Hessen and Robert Hessian Matrix or something.
Just go away. I'm done with you, Fabi. I'm so sorry. You may not regret joining us. I regret that you have to be here for Danya's terrible.
You have to stoop so low.
Oh, that was so bad. Danya with the IM level puns in the chat. Well, that's not even IM level. That's
FM. Did I make an IM norm?
No.
That's funny. I played this disastrous U.S. Championship, 2016.
Did you lose to Fabi?
I lost Fabi the year after that, but I played okay in that one. But I got last place, and my only consolation was that I actually did make an IM norm, like 3 out of 11. So,
got it. Fabi, I don't know what else to ask you right now because, I feel like we've gone off the rails a little bit.
And
when's your next event?
Just like Teddy's position.
Yes, but when's your next event?
I have no idea. You mean my next online or any sort of event? There's an event organized by the St. Louis Chess Club, which is starting. I'm not exactly sure when, but I think they just released a press announcement about the event. It's going to be 2 matches between the top American players. So I'll be playing, Hikaru will be playing, Wesley will be playing, and Linear Dominguez will be playing. And it's going to be rapid chess with some slight twists in terms of the scoring system.
Got it. Sorry, I'm sorry to change the subject again, but apparently Teddy's fiance came out with the peace costume, which I'm very upset I didn't see because I was focusing on our conversation, but I've been waiting for that moment. So I hope.
And I'm also transfixed by the game again, by the way. This is fascinating.
I hope she returns. This king's on b3 now. Queen c3.
Queen c3 and b1 queen offer draw perpetual, clearly, yeah.
White had not a single threat. So what was rook a3? Because you could have played rook a1 and white resigns because there's no threats.
Queen d3, Teddy again taking the most circuitous possible route here to win this game.
Yeah.
Queen c4, man, he's gonna give up all his pawns at this rate. He's finding a way to launder what he takes. Okay, well now at this point.
Well, Teddy gets a win. He ends on a positive note. Unfortunately for him, this was all Alina. Credit to her. We will hear from both players when we return after this short break. And we return with both players after what was a tough matchup for you, Teddy. We'll start with you, and congratulations to Alina. But Teddy, what do you think went wrong in this match compared to your earlier matches that resulted in your favor?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, I think Alina was just way too good. So congratulations. I felt like she kind of had all the answers, and even when I had good positions, she kind of dug her heels in and defended really well, and it was hard for me to break through. And then I also think, like, on my side, I think I was way too cautious. I think I played very slowly, and then I found myself in time pressure every time. And so I think I needed to play with a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, and Alina, on your end, I mean, it seemed like everything was going your way, but you also were constantly pretty well far ahead on the clock. So was that a conscious effort by you to stay ahead on the clock and work out things in Teddy's time trouble?
Well, it's always a pleasure to have more time than your opponent, especially that I understood that, again, I was getting slightly out-prepared. And so I thought that I will have some tricks if I have more time. So I thought that that was my only way to play, so to put pressure on the clock, and then in time trouble to find maybe some tricks. And I think that there were some blunders from Teddy's side, just exactly because he was in time trouble.
Well, again, Alina, congratulations. You have a question for both of you. I'll start with you, Teddy. Do you feel at all motivated after what was an excellent performance in the Speed Chess Championship? Do you feel motivated to play more tournaments and study more? How do you feel? I mean, of course, there are no tournaments right now, but what is your feel like in terms of coming back into tournament play?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually, because of this, I've bought a couple books that I want to read. Also have been, to prepare for this, there are a couple players who I like to kind of prepare with, and we kind of talked about continuing to do that afterwards. So for sure, I think it's something where I want to keep getting back into chess, and there are a lot of tournaments online now, so maybe I'll start playing in those too.
Well, Alina, question for you. Are you going to be watching the match on Saturday? And between John Bartholomew and Greg Shahade, is there an opponent whom you would like to play, or will you kind of just be impartially taking notes and preparing for both of them?
Okay, maybe not a good answer, but I'm not going to watch this match. Sorry for the honesty. Well, I just heard that everyone is saying that Bartholomew is very strong, so probably I should be scared that he will win. But I've never played against any of these players, so it will be new for me. And to me, honestly, it doesn't matter who will win. I will just see that and then prepare afterwards. But of course, I will check these games afterwards.
Well, you said the word scared, but Alina, I've never seen you be scared of anybody, including Anish Giri and Vladimir Krumnik. So do you just go in no matter who your opponent is and just play the board? I know everyone wants to do that, but how do you make sure that happens?
Well, I was scared playing Anish Giri and Vladimir Krumnik, but the point was that I have to thank my husband because, well, when I saw the pairings, I was so happy that I'm going to play such strong players that I actually didn't care about the result. I just thought that my goal in this tournament would be to play with as many such strong players as possible. And my husband told me that you are wrong. You should just go there and try to beat them. Yeah. So then I understood that, yeah, why not? I mean, we are all people, and there are no titles or ratings that are making moves, but just people, right? So everyone could have a better day or worse. So.
Well, speaking of your husband and people, I mean, he beat me on the way to winning the 2018 Isle of Man. So does he thank me a little bit for his tournament victory there?
You should ask him, but I think that he thanks everyone he beat there.
I'm glad, I just wanted to make sure I was appreciated. Yeah. Teddy, back to you quickly. You were playing very quickly in some of the openings, and you were repeating lines. So you said you've been studying, would you switch it up if you could play this match over again? Would you change your openings at all, or do you feel like the openings were not the problem?
Yeah, I think one of the opening lines I kept playing into over and over again was, the triangle. And I think that in retrospect, I think it was a bad choice for these fast time controls, because even though I walk away with a pawn, or I get an extra pawn, I think white just has a lot of pressure, and the bar for my accuracy is much higher than Alina's in those positions, and so I probably wouldn't have played that again. Also, I played a couple times early on against the King's Indian this line with h4. I saw that Koneru had played this idea, and so I thought I'd try it out, but after the first two games didn't go according to plan, I switched to like the more standard g4 idea. So, and I think that went a lot better for me. So there was definitely some adjusting along the way, but yeah, I definitely wish I might have switched it up a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Teddy, we know you need to get back to work, so I'm just going to ask one last question for you, Alina. Do you have any other online events coming up, or are you just going to continue working on your chess, and then your next event will be the final of this tournament?
I think that the next will be Title Tuesday. Probably it will be the next one. Then I will play the final, and a part of this, I'm just working on chess on normal basis, like every day, training, sometimes playing with my husband, but not so much online chess.
Okay, well, it's clearly paying off. And Alina, congratulations once again.
Congratulations.
You have so many fans here. And Teddy, you've also earned yourself a ton of fans as well. Sorry the match didn't go your way, and I'm sure we'll speak later.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to both players for what was a great match. And as Alina talked about, well, what is she going to play? Title Tuesday. And it's for title players. And every single Tuesday, if you have a title you want to play, you can play the likes of Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Alexandra Kosteniuk, Alina is playing in those. Danya, I know you play in them as well. So it's very fun indeed. But we now have a finalist in the IM GM Speed Chess Championship here. You see Alina Kashlinskaya's name there in the fine print, and right in the center, Danya, John Bartholomew, Greg Shahade. Who is Alina going to take on in the final?
Well, I see in the chat, Greg Shahade is whipping up a storm. He is, to say that he is confident is to say nothing. And John has been laying low the last 30, 45 minutes. He'll try to let his moves do the talking. I think it's going to be a very close match. I can't do I have to make a prediction? I like both of them so much.
Yeah, but Greg was trash talking the Scandinavian, right? He said he's going to retire.
Right, and only because of that, I think that crosses the border, and so that is why I'm going to have to go with John. But
man.
Hey guys, it's John. We're going to have to see. It's going to be a fascinating match, so you will not want to miss it. That is going to be on Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And what do you think about this match that we just saw, Robert? Not as close as maybe we thought it would be, but still fascinating.
Well, Alina certainly proved herself to be the better player today, that's for sure. And as we've talked about all along, Alina is the strongest classical chess player in this entire field, but she's showing that her skills over the board translate online. She's working hard. She talked about it, working on chess with her husband every single day. It's clearly paying off. And for Teddy, we may have to say goodbye to him for this tournament, but he has gained many new fans, beating Danny Rensch, beating Gotham Chess, Levy Rosman along the way, some people who are, the faces of the chess world. So Teddy should be proud of himself, even though Teddy didn't go his way. And I want to thank all of our viewers. We still have so many of you with us here. You make these shows possible. You make it, so much fun for me and for Danya. We had Fabiano Caruana joining us today. But for now, we must sign off. I'm sorry to bid you adieu. And I want, just one more time, thank you for tuning into this I Am Not a GM Speed Chess Championship match brought to you by Chess.com.